Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. This is the story about what if Naruto was trained by X-Men in America. Huge shout out to Eric Howlett for this story. If you want more of this, make sure you're subscribed and hit like. And comment down below when you want the next part. Let's begin. It was that dark night in Konoha when Kyuubi no Kitsune, the nine-tailed fox demon, attacked the village for reasons as of yet unknown. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, was preparing to do battle with the demon, knowing all too well he couldn't kill the monster. So, he told Sarutobi, the third Hokage, of his plan for the events that were sure to unfold. I can fully understand why that would happen, Minato, replied Sarutobi. After all, you are sealing the beast within the child. Right, said Minato ominously. So you know what must be done. Yes, replied Sarutobi as they both sped off to halt the beast's rampage any way they could. Many grueling hours later, the devastating battle had come to a close. The Kyuubi had been sealed within a newborn baby named Uzumaki Naruto. Sarutobi stepped out onto the balcony of the Hokage's office and made an important announcement to the villagers present. The Ondaime has defeated Kyuubi no Kitsune, but has sacrificed his life in doing so to save us all, Sarutobi remarked with a heavy heart. The demon has been suppressed and sealed inside a newborn boy, Uzumaki Naruto, as Yondaime's last act of heroism. It is his dying wishes that you all treat this boy as a hero for restraining the beast. Also, I hereby issue a decree that there be no spoken mention of what has occurred this dark night, not even to your children, and those who do so shall be severely punished. All at once, the crowd that had gathered became enraged and incited a riot. Some began to hurl garbage, and others started to blindly attack the Anbu Black Ops that had been called in to restrain them. Quickly, we must kill the boy before the demon takes him over, shouted a villager. Destroy the monster, yelled another. Damn, I was afraid of this. The people still fear the unknown more than they are concerned for the boy's well-being. Looks like I'll have to go with the fourth's contingency plan, Sarutobi mumbled to himself as he and a group of Anbu teleported to the top of Hokage Mountain. We will wait here for the boy's foster parents to arrive, as Yondaime planned in case this happened, he said to them as he cradled Naruto's small, sleeping form in his arms. Yondaime-sama, are you sure that the boy will be safe with these people? Asked an Anbu with silver hair a few moments later. Of course I'm sure, Kakashi. I've met with them before, even accompanied them on several missions in the past. They are more than capable of protecting the boy, as well as raising him and teaching him how to control the abilities that may result as a byproduct of his merging with the Kyuubi. Now be ready, they will be landing within a few moments. How do you know, Yondaime-sama? Because I've told him we would, came a voice from within Kakashi's mind. The Anbu jumped suddenly, searching around for the source of the voice, much to Sarutobi's amusement. What sort of jutsu is this? Kakashi wondered inwardly. This is no jutsu, Kakashi, rather telepathy, a psychic ability that I've developed as a result of my own genetic mutation. You will see my true, physical form in a moment once we land. We? Wondered the confused Anbu. Just then, a metallic whirring sound reached their highly trained ears. They looked up to find the source of the sound, only to see a huge black SR-77 Blackbird stealth jet lowering out of the sky. As the Anbu agents looked on in amazement, the jet landed and the catwalk extended from its undercarriage. The hatch opened on the bottom, and three figures disembarked from the jet. One was a bald, well-dressed man, who rode towards them in a motorized wheelchair. The one to his right was a short man with a stocky, powerful physique, dressed in a jet black uniform with a red X on either shoulder. His eyes were the one thing that unnerved Kakashi, they were the eyes of a predator. The figure to the left of the man in the wheelchair was an African-American woman with white hair, clad in a similar uniform, but with a long black cape. She seemed to enjoy the stormy weather that had been brewing that night, smiling as the icy wind brushed across her face, sending her hair billowing around her like a cloud. It's good to see you again, Sarutobi, said the man in the wheelchair. Though, I wish it was under much happier circumstances. As do I, Charles, replied Sarutobi remorsefully. As do I. You're the voice I heard in my mind a moment ago, remarked Kakashi in surprise. Indeed I am Kakashi. My name is Professor Charles Xavier, I am a telepath. A mutant? Asked Kakashi, raising an eyebrow. Yes. I founded the Xavier Institute for Higher Learning, a school where mutants learn to control their powers to either become productive members of society or join what the students have affectionately called the X-Men. We act as a global peacekeeping force against any threat to the world, both human and mutant alike. Yes, I believe I've heard of the X-Men somewhere before. Well, I'll be damned, said the stocky man. If it ain't Kakashi Hatake. Last I saw you, you'd just been promoted to Jonin. How you been, kid? Logan, Kakashi exclaimed in disbelief. Is that really you? Yeah, but I go by Wolverine these days, sometimes. Guess we've both changed a lot over the years, huh kid? I guess so. After a few moments of explaining what had transpired, both Charles and Sarutobi had come to the conclusion that it would be best for Naruto to be raised by the X-Men. Astonishingly, Logan offered to be Naruto's stepfather. "I owe it to Minato after Mastermind ruined my wedding to Mariko," he said. "She was his cousin, you know, and hit their family real hard when the hand killed her to get to me. I just hope that I can be the right kind of dad for this kid." "As you wish, Logan-san," said Sarutobi respectfully. "Once he is of age, he may return to the village to begin his ninja training, if you so wish. I would be honored for him to learn the ways of his real father. It only seems fitting that he become a shinobi." "I agree," interjected Xavier. With that, Sarutobi handed Charles a duffel bag full of supplies that they would possibly need to aid in the boy's upbringing. It contained a number of scrolls on ninjutsu, chakra, the Bijuu, the history of both shinobi and Konoha, as well as various ninja tools. Charles thanked his old friend and shook his hand, assuring him they'd keep him posted on Naruto's growth and progress as a future shinobi. As Logan stepped forward to take Naruto from Sarutobi's arms, a man burst from the trees wielding a katana. "Die, fox demon," he yelled as he ran towards Naruto's small form. "This must be one of the villagers from the riot," Kakashi surmised as he reached for his ninjutsu blade and moved to get between the man and Naruto. "How could he have followed us here without our knowing?" Just as Kakashi moved to defend Naruto and Sarutobi, Logan vaulted over him and ran at the would-be assassin low to the ground, his arms outstretched at either side. With a flick of his wrist, a set of 3 insanely sharp claws, each about as long as his forearm, extended from his left hand, unsheathing with a distinctive snikt. "Rawr." He howled in rage as he lashed out with his left arm, slicing the katana to shreds. As the man stared at him in disbelief, Logan seized his right arm, wrenched it behind the man's back and twisted it, the pain forcing him to his knees. He balled his right hand into a fist and placed it behind the assassin's head, unsheathing 2 more claws on either side of his head. "Now," he whispered in the man's ear threateningly. "Unless you want to experience what the middle claw feels like, you'll turn yourself into these Anbu here and stay the hell away from my son, got it, bub?" The man nodded his head in compliance, whimpering pathetically in fright. Logan shoved the assailant to Kakashi, who cuffed him and rendered him unconscious with a genjutsu. "I think it's time we took our leave," said Storm in a concerned voice. "Yes, in case more of them have followed us here," agreed Sarutobi. But that the two parties said their goodbyes and parted ways. Kakashi at the Blackbird as it rose into the air, then vanished into the night. Aboard the jet, Logan held Naruto in his arms, a father for the first time in his life. "Mariko," he thought as he let the child clasp one of his fingers. "I promise that I'll keep this boy safe, even if it costs me my own life. No one will ever harm him like the hand did you and our child, this I swear." At that moment, Storm came in the passenger bay and sat down next to her teammate, smiling at the sight of gruff and tough Wolverine playing with a "You ain't gotta worry about that, Aurora," he said with a smirk. "Even though I've got a kid in my life now, I'll always be in the mood for a good scrap." "Good to hear." Storm then reached over and took Naruto from Logan, smiling at him lovingly. "Hey baby, I'm your Auntie Aurora," she told the child, prompting a smile from him. "Welcome to the X-Men." 13 years later. Naruto was called into Professor Xavier's office at the Xavier Institute for Higher Learning early that afternoon. He'd just returned from a mission in Brazil with Sunspot and a few of the new X-Men trainees, so he knew he wasn't in any trouble. Still, you never know with Xavier Oidsama, he thought as he entered the telepath's office. "Good to know you're still on your toes, Naruto," said Charles as he entered, prompting a foxy grin from the team. "And no, you're not in trouble at all. Please have a seat." "Xavier Oidsama," he began to say, his heritage kicking in a bit. "I mean, Professor, why did you send for me? Is Dad in trouble or something?" No, Logan is perfectly fine. He's in the danger room as we speak, training your sister Laura. But, back to matters at hand, your father has told you about the village hidden in the leaves before, correct?" "Yeah, I know all about my birthplace and my real father too, why?" "Well, ever since last year, the Hand, the Reavers, as well as the Weapon X program, have begun to take a serious interest in your powers. I fear that they may attempt to kill you. Therefore, your father and I feel that it's time you returned to Konoha and began your ninja training. I guess if it's what you and Dad want, then sure, I'll go. It sounds like it'd be pretty fun, plus I haven't been to Japan that much." "Excellent. Now Japan is the Hand's home base, and though I'm sure none have infiltrated Konoha, I don't like the idea of you going in unprepared. So before you leave on the Blackbird tonight, I'd like you to pack your X-Men uniform in with your regular luggage, along with your 2.50 AE Desert Eagles with their hip holsters and 2 spare 9-round magazines, as well as a few lengths of Tetsujin wire. Your motorcycle will be aboard when you arrive." The professor then handed Naruto a card and an official SHIELD ID with his photo on it. "What are these for?" Naruto questioned. The card is to access yours and your birth father's bank accounts. The badge, on the other hand, is to give you access to SHIELD weapons cache and storage base in the village. Their superior is an old friend of your Uncle Sunfire, and they will accept you on the spot. You can access the facility at any time to pick up any equipment you may need. One more thing, Professor, where am I gonna stay? If the people there are like they are here in America, then I'd guess that mutants aren't on their list of preferred house guests. That too has been taken care of, said Charles with a smile. With the push of a button, a hologram of a large mansion estate appeared over his desk. Sarutobi, the third Hokage, has already received the results of the DNA tests we took when you were born and shown them to the village council, confirming you as Minato's rightful heir. They have agreed to grant you access to all of your father's effects, including his title, family fortune, and mansion estate, among other things. Now, to ensure your safety, I've had Forge outfit the mansion with a number of security devices, both human and Shire alike. These will help to protect you from any enemies you may encounter while you're there. However, before you go off exploring, I'd like for you to meet up with Sarutobi first, if you don't mind. Sure thing. So, I really have to leave tonight, huh? Yes. I'm sorry, Naruto, but this is for your own safety. Now, if it were up to your father and I, we would have you stay here. But given the circumstances, we have no choice. Then, thanks just the same, said Naruto, shaking Charles's hand and bowing respectfully. Arigato, Oij-sama. You are most welcome, Naruto-kun, replied the telepath with a smirk. 3 hours later, Naruto found himself sitting in the cargo bay of the Blackbird with his Ducati, trying to keep from falling asleep when he heard Bobby Drake's voice come over his comlink. Hey Naruto, we're approximately 3 miles above the village, if you want to take a look. Naruto rushed to the window and saw Bobby was right. What was below looked somewhat like a big city instead of a shinobi village, and there was a ninja version of Mount Rushmore that overlooked the rest of the landscape. Looks like I'm home, Dad, he thought as he adjusted his dust goggles and strapped on his gear. I'm gonna point us towards the Tokyo International Airport, Bobby said, bringing him out of his thoughts. From there it'll take us 5 more hours just to get back here, Naruto reasoned. Head for that clearing on the outskirts of the village. What? Just do it. Once he was sure they were over the clearing, Naruto punched the button for the cargo bay doors, which flew open with a gust of air. If you break something, Logan's gonna take it out on me in our next danger room session. Came Bobby's voice over his earpiece. Relax, Mom, yelled Naruto as he mounted his bike and edged it down the ramp. This is gonna be awesome. And with that, he pushed off with his feet and both he and the bike flew out into open space. Wahoo. About the time he was about 2 miles from the ground, he decided that it was time to land. Kyuubi, I'm gonna need some chakra for setting this thing down safely. Gotcha, Kit. Naruto instantly felt a rush of power and smiled inwardly. He'd known about the Kyuubi for 6 years now, and since then he'd become good friends with the fox. He'd also learned Kyuubi had both awakened his own latent mutation and enabled him to mimic the abilities of some of the X-Men. These powers were mainly from Professor X, Beast, Nightcrawler, and his stepfather, Logan, who'd recently discovered his true name. So far, Naruto had exhibited the professor's telepathy, to a lesser degree, Beast's retractable claws, dexterity and agility, Nightcrawler's teleportation and shadow melt abilities, and Wolverine's animalistic qualities, which were already prevalent due to Kyuubi's presence. As the ground quickly rose to meet him, Naruto focused on a small hill near the village gate. He closed his eyes and then vanished in a black cloud of sulfurous smoke. Only to reappear at the foot of the hill he'd targeted a few moments ago. He thanked Kyuubi mentally, then fired up his bike's 4-cylinder engine and roared up the hill towards Konoha. At the top of the hill's crest he flew into the air and through the gates, as well as over the heads of a pair of extremely startled Anbu escorts. After he'd landed and shut off the motor, one of them finally got the guts to question him. Who are you, and what is your business here, he asked. I am Naruto Uzumaki Howlett, Naruto responded, showing them his ID. The guard suddenly remembered his name, as they'd been instructed by Sarutobi to welcome him to Konoha. He told them that though Naruto was the vessel for Kyuubi, he was to be treated with the same respect they would show any other shinobi. James Howlett, i.e. Logan Wolverine, Naruto's stepfather, was considered to be tougher than any of them, despite his height. They both bowed to him respectfully and ushered him into the Hokage's office. After Naruto and Sarutobi had gotten better acquainted, he rode to his father's estate and began to unpack. Man, this place is huge. I think I'm gonna like it here, he remarked as he took in the main atrium. I'm glad you feel that way, Naruto-kun, replied an automated yet female voice from one of the wall-mounted security panels on the side of the room. Good to see Forge uploaded you into the new system Cerebra, he said to his personal Shire program. The mansion itself was half the size of the X-mansion, but still very large. It had an upstairs game room, a large master bedroom, which Naruto claimed immediately, a ballroom for formal gatherings, an indoor gym, a hot spring spa, a well-stocked kitchen, an armory, 3 extra guest rooms, a dining area, an indoor zen garden, and an observation tower. Outside was a garage for Naruto's motorcycle, which was stocked with a number of SHIELD technologies that he could use to repair it. There was also a hedge maze, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a firing range, a basketball court, and a small pagoda that overlooked the lake at the forest's edge. "Feels like home to me," Naruto said as he punched his security code into the monitor in the armory, which Forge had linked to the rest of the house's security systems. Suddenly the screen informed him that someone was at the door. A moment later, the doorbell sounded. Naruto took one last look at the monitor before rushed out of the room and slid down the handrail. The Shire scanning tech hadn't registered any weapons on the newcomer, but he wasn't taking any chances. He picked up one of his Colt Python .357 Magnum revolvers and flicked off the safety as he answered the door. "Who is it?" he asked. "Naruto," said the man on the other side of the door. He had a large scar across his nose and nose bridge, his hair was up in a ponytail, and he looked very friendly. However, Naruto knew from his dealings with Mystique that appearances could be deceiving. "Who wants to know?" he asked as he thumbed back the hammer on the python. "Iruka Yamino, your instructor at the Ninja Academy." Naruto ran the image from the camera through the roster of Konoha shinobi his Shire headset had on file. His sweat dropped slightly when Iruka's name, photo, brain pattern, and genetic scan all came back positive. "I really need to stop being so paranoid," he thought as he set the revolver down and unlocked the door. "Omen Iruka-sensei," he said, bowing respectfully. "I didn't mean to come across so paranoid, but considering that my dad taught me never to go by appearances, it was kinda instinct." "It's okay Naruto," Iruka said with a grin. "I just stopped by to welcome you to the Ninja Academy. Classes start Monday at 9 AM, so please be as punctual as you can." "No problem Iruka-sensei, thanks for the heads up." He then shut the door as Iruka left and went back upstairs to the armory to finish his systems check. Looks like Forge didn't leave any XM165 plasma grenades, he thought as he looked over his weapons inventory on Cerebra's databanks. "I'd better stop by the SHIELD facility tomorrow and pick up some." Just as he was about to call it a night, he noticed a file on the desktop that he hadn't before. It had the same coding as Xavier's Cerebro files, but was labeled as Agenda X. Konoha files. Intrigued, he opened the file and was surprised at what he found. "Whoa, there are a number of genin like me in the Ninja Academy with latent X genes," he exclaimed. "If I can figure out their abilities, then help them learn to control them, I might be able to set up my own branch of X-Men here in Konoha." A few moments later, he was busy conversing with the professor about the file and those listed in it. "I thought you would find that interesting," Xavier replied. "Anyhow, it was our intention for you to help these children in the first place." "Really?" Naruto asked in amazement. "But, why me? You've led a number of high-priority missions in the past few years and have always come out on top, with little or no injuries to yourself or your teammates as well. So it seemed only fitting that you be the one to help them discover their powers and instruct them on how to control them properly. I have full trust in your abilities and your leadership skills in this matter Naruto, there's no doubt in my mind about this." "Gee, thanks Professor. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything Naruto. It's getting late and you need your rest." "Okay," Naruto replied as he signed off and headed to bed. He stayed awake for a while, excited by the fact that he wasn't the only mutant in the village. His last thought before sleep finally found him was, "Man, I wonder what they'll be like." He slept like a baby all through the night, and it was a good thing too. Because tomorrow, the real work would begin. The sun rose early on Monday, streaming into Naruto's room and glancing off his eyes. He winced in discomfort and pulled the covers over his head sleepily. Just as he was about to drift back to sleep, he remembered what day it was and leapt out of his king-sized bed and rushed to the shower. Once he had dried off, he changed into his civilian clothes, which consisted of a pair of denim jeans, his dust goggles, a navy Fantastic Four t-shirt, a pair of black fingerless gloves, and his standard issue sandals. "Oh man, I can't believe I almost slept in," he exclaimed as he slid down the banister and hurried into the kitchen. He'd been ecstatic about meeting his new classmates ever since he found out that he wasn't the only mutant in the class. Even though he'd joined mid-year, Xavier had vouched for him with Sarutobi, so he would be allowed to be in the same class as those listed in the Agenda X files. After he'd finished his breakfast and collected his scrolls and ninja gear, stuffing them into his backpack, he zipped out the front door and headed for the village. Moments later, he was bounding over the rooftops of Konoha, pulling off aerial acrobatics that few ninja could even imagine. He vaulted off a building and latched onto a clothesline that hung between the two of them with one hand. He swung himself in a circle around the rope for a few rotations, then launched himself into the air, his momentum carrying him to the building on the adjacent street. Upon his landing, he backflipped onto a chimney and leapt into the air, teleporting to the roof of Ichiraku Ramen at the height of his jump. His heightened sense of smell caught the scent of freshly cooked ramen wafting in the breeze, causing his mouth to water profusely. Ugh, that smells so good. Stay focused, Kit reprimanded Kyubi. You don't want to be late, do ya? Yeah, you're right, Kyubi, he agreed remorsefully. Even though it thoroughly pains me to say it, I guess ramen can wait, this time. Now that's a first, you saying ramen wait. I think Mephisto's realm just froze over. Oh, grow up, Kyubi. As Naruto was busy talking with Kyubi, Hinata Hyuga happened to be passing by on her way to the academy and glimpsed a blonde crouched on the roof of the ramen shop. She had heard tell from her father that the boy was the son of an old acquaintance of his and was somewhat of a berserker like his father, but despite this, something about him that captivated Hinata when she saw him. Maybe it was the way the wind rustled his hair, or maybe it was that carefree gleam in his eyes that spoke of mischief and adventure. But whatever the case, she fell for him right then and there. So that's him, she thought. The boy father was taking about the other day, the one everyone says is living in the fourth estate. Naruto Uzumaki howled. Just then, Naruto noticed Hinata staring at him and smiled at her. His sudden acknowledgement of her presence caused her to turn bright red and her heart started racing a mile a minute. He gave her a short but friendly wave and vanished in a cloud of black smoke, the smell of sulfur and brimstone lingering in the air. Surprised at his sudden disappearance, she gave slight yelp of astonishment and looked around to see where he'd gone to. A few blocks over, Naruto reappeared atop an apartment building and slumped against a ledge to catch his breath. He'd wanted to quicken his pace to the academy so much that he'd overshot his limit of 2 miles, winding him considerably. Not even Nightcrawler, whom he'd known as Uncle Kurt, could travel further than 3 miles per jump. And he was simply mimicking his powers to conserve chakra. As he sat there, he thought about the girl he'd seen staring at him. She seems familiar, like I know her from somewhere. Was she listed in the Agenda X files? She may have been, Kit said Kyubi with a distracted tone in his voice. I sensed something about her back there. Something that I know I've felt somewhere before. What is it? I don't really know, Kit. It was so familiar, yet so alien. Oh well, can't really worry about that now, thought Naruto, rising to his feet. We've still got a few buildings to jump till we reach the academy. With that, he took a running start and then pushed off to the next building. As he raced off to the academy, Kyubi sat in the back of Naruto's mind. Although he'd rarely been unnerved by mutants that outclassed Naruto in the past, he was unable to shake the feeling that the girl had given him back there. Maybe I'm just overreacting. She's probably just another ordinary baseline. 9 minutes later, Naruto stepped into his classroom in the Konoha Ninja Academy. There were already a few students there, and they were busy conversing with each other. There was a rotund young man in the corner of the classroom, stuffing his face with a bag of potato chips. Next to him sat a kid wearing a pineapple hairstyle, snoozing away without a care in the world. Hey, he thought for a moment. I recognize that fat kid from Xavier Oji-sama's file, cool. I wonder who else from Agenda X is in this classroom. On the other side of the room was a boy who bore a striking resemblance to the girl he'd seen earlier. He had long black hair and a gaze so sharp that it seemed to pierce Naruto's soul when he caught his glance. He was talking to a girl who wore a Chinese-styled outfit, topped off with a pair of buns in her hair that made her look almost like a panda. Next to them was a strange-looking young man in a green unitard, sporting a Mo Howard haircut and a pair of unnaturally huge eyebrows. Now I know both her and that guy with the eyebrows are in Oji-sama's files, Naruto thought as he made his way to his seat. That's 3 down. In front of him sat a pair of girls, one with long blonde hair and one with pink hair, who he thought was kinda cute. They seemed to trying to get the attention of the guy who sat brooding in between them. This guy had spiky black hair and blood-red eyes. He also wore a shirt that had a drawing of a red and white fan on it, marking him as a member of the once great Uchiha clan. His dad had told him about what had happened to the Uchiha all those years ago and how only one of them had survived. So that's Sasuke, the last of the Uchiha. Naruto looked at him and at the pink-haired Kunoichi, who was busy glaring daggers at the blonde girl. Both of them are in the files too. I wonder. Just then, he noticed the girl from earlier come in and sit down behind 2 boys. One had red fang tattoos on his cheeks and had a puppy poking its head out of his hoodie. The other boy's face was covered by his collar and a pair of Coke bottle glasses. I know I saw that guy with the puppy in the files, but I still can't figure that girl. Sensing his gaze, Hinata glanced down at her hands and began to play with her fingers nervously. Before he could think any more about it, Naruto's thoughts were interrupted by Iruka, who just walked into the room. Okay class, settle down, he said as the students ceased their conversations and turned to the front of the class. Alright everyone, today we'll be studying known Kekkei Genkai, both those native to Konohagakure and others that have been discovered in the 5 shinobi villages. As Iruka began his lecture, Naruto listened intently to what he was saying about Kekkei Genkai. He was intrigued at how much these bloodline traits resembled X gene-related mutations. The similarities between the two were uncanny. Cool, he thought as Iruka continued his lecture. It's possible that Kekkei Genkai are actually mutations that have been strengthened with each new generation, like with Husk and Cannonball's family, the Guthries. If that's true, then some of these guys in the Pros files may be the next step in the evolution of their bloodline's mutation. A whole new breed of ninja. As he sat pondering the similarities of both mutations, he never even noticed that Hinata was staring at him from her seat on the other side of the classroom, small smile on her face. A few hours later, after Iruka's lecture had concluded, the school broke for lunch. A number of the students had brought their own bento, but Naruto had been so concerned with getting to school on time that morning that he'd forgotten to bring his. Ah well, now might be a good time to stop by that ramen shop I saw on the way over here, he thought as he left the academy campus and made his way to the eatery. Seeing as a few of his classmates were in the same boat, he offered to do something he would have never done in a million years. Hey, you guys up for some ramen? My treat. 15 minutes later, Naruto was seated on one of the stools at Ichiraku while his classmates introduced themselves over a bowl of ramen. Aside from himself, the 5 that had joined him were the Rat-un boy, who he learned was known as Choji Akimichi, Kiba Inyazuka and his puppy Akamaru, the Chinese-attired Kunoichi Tenten, the extremely odd yet pretty cool Rock Lee, and finally the revenge-obsessed Sasuke. While Naruto liked the first 4 of his future teammates, Sasuke wasn't making a good first impression. First off, he was always brooding, which led Naruto to believe that he was emo when he first met him. Secondly, he believed that he was to be his clan's avenger, and that anyone who got in his way was a hindrance to his overall purpose in life. Then finally, he stated that since Naruto had joined mid-year, had less of a chance at becoming a ninja than anyone else there. He'd even gone as far as to refer to Naruto as Henshu Furiku, mutant freak. While Naruto would have enjoyed nothing more than to throttle the spiky-haired emo, he remembered Xavier Oji-sama's lecture on human-mutant relations and calmed his temper. Yep, feels just like Westchester, he sighed inwardly as he finished his meal. Sasuke team thinks he's so cool just cause he's been here longer than I have and he has the best grades in class. Emo jerk. He was just about to leave, not wanting to spend another minute around the pompous Uchiha, when Kiba asked him something that made him stay for a while. So I heard from my mom that your dad is supposed to be some kinda insanely awesome fighter and that he works for some special organization, he said as Akamaru lapped up his leftover broth. Is that true? Oh, yeah, dad told me he used to date Kiba's mom back in the day. Naruto shuddered slightly at the thought of Logan and Tsume Yazuka together. Yeah, he's a member of the X-Men, Naruto returned proudly after compassing himself. The who? Asked Sasuke, skeptically raising an eyebrow. Naruto's sweat dropped slightly at his own absent-mindedness. He'd forgotten that Konohagakure wasn't that connected to the outside world enough to have heard of most of the legendary heroes he'd worked with in the past. Sure, they had some technologies, but other than that, they were just about as distant as the Savage Land when it came to global happenings on. So, he took a few minutes to tell them about some of the heroes he'd grown up with, like Spider-Man, Captain America, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and of course, the Uncanny X-Men. After he had finished, the 5 before him sat staring at him with slack-jawed expressions on their faces, all except Sasuke, who didn't believe a word of what Naruto had said. Yeah right, thought Sasuke. Like an annoying dope like Naruto would be working with guys like that. He's probably making all this up. Cool, said Choji, shoving a handful of potato chips into his mouth. Yeah, Naruto agreed, it is pretty awesome, sharing your life with some of Earth's mightiest heroes. Especially when one of them's your dad. So, have you actually fought alongside any of them before? Asked Tenten inquisitively. Of course, Dad makes it a point to share all of his life with me, especially since I became a full member of the field team 2 years ago. Sometimes he lets me get right in on the action, and others where he has me stay on the sidelines and help with either crowd control or rescues. But then there are times when the action comes to me. Like when, Naruto-kun? Asked Lee. Well, take the night I'd been inducted as a full-fledged X-Man for example. We were holding a party to celebrate and everything was going pretty smoothly for a while. Sadly it didn't stay that way for long. Flashback. For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, that nobody can deny. Sang the academy students as they congratulated Naruto on his promotion to field ops. Aw, come on you guys, quit. He laughed as he massaged the back of his neck in embarrassment. Really, I don't deserve all of this. They had all gathered in the institute's main ballroom for the party, which was pretty extravagant to say the least. Kitty and Aurora had spent hours setting up the decorations, and they'd even hired a professional caterer to serve real ramen. Cyclops had also invited a number of the X-Men's old friends to the party, including Brian Braddock and his wife Megan from Excalibur. "Don't be so modest, son," said James, i.e. Logan, as he clapped his hand on Naruto's shoulder. "You've earned it for all the hard work you put in to get this far." Just as Naruto was about to agree with his dad, a sharp pinging sound reverberated through the air as Emma Frost rapped on her glass to get everyone's attention. "Thank you all for joining us on this wonderful evening as we celebrate the promotion of Naruto Uzumaki Howlett to the X-Men field team," the once White Queen said warmly as she smiled in his direction. "We have all stood by him in his early years of training and have watched him grow into both a fine young man and a capable leader, as we saw during our last field day." She raised her glass and nodded towards him. "A toast to our young comrade, may the adventures to come be more exciting with him along for the ride." "Here, here," shouted the guests in agreement. However, before anyone could take a sip of their sparkling cider, a tall figure crashed through the skylight above the ballroom, showering a number of the students in the broken glass. As the figure hit the floor, Naruto got a better look at the party crasher. It was a massive android with gleaming metallic skin, a large .50mm GA railgun mounted on its shoulder, and a huge laser cannon where its left forearm would have been. Brian was the first to react. "Fury!" he roared as he clutched the amulet around his neck, using its power to transform into Captain Britain. "Why did Jasper send you? Leave this place at once." He flew at the android with incredible speed, his body glowing with mystic energies. "Primary objective confirmed." It said in a cold, synthesized tone, "Eradicate Brian Braddock and all present super-powered beings." As it spoke, it leveled its cannon arm at Brian and cut loose with a burst of energy that struck the hero square in the chest, sending him flying into a wall. He let out a groan of pain before sinking to the floor in unconsciousness. "Brian!" screamed Megan as the creature strode towards her husband. She quickly transformed her stature into that of the She-Hulk and ran at the Fury. A mean right hook sent the robotic monstrosity careening into the dessert table. As it fell against the table, the Fury attempted to fire off a round from its railgun at the hulking shapeshifter. However, the shot went wide, spraying the room in a wide arc of depleted uranium rounds. Luckily, Julian Keller, one of Frost's hellions, had erected a TK field over the fleeing students, shielding them from the deadly hailstorm. "James!" Emma yelled as Cyclops herded the students out of the ballroom, rounds digging into the stone just inches above her head. "Cyclops, Bishop and I will see to the students. You, Naruto, Rachel and Sam help the Braddocks contain that thing." "Got it, Frost," he yelled as he unsheathed his claws. Snicked. As they got into position, Naruto glanced over at his father and they both exchanged equally mischievous grins. "You ready for your first official field scrap, son?" "Are you kidding, Dad?" he replied, unsheathing the retractable claws he'd mimicked from Beast. "I was frickin' born ready." "Alright, then let's do it." The father and son team ran at the Fury full throttle, with Marvel Girl and Cannonball flying close behind. As the symbiote assassin staggered to its feet, sparks flying from its damaged railgun, it looked up just in time to see both Naruto and Wolverine bearing down on it, their faces contorted in a gleeful battle cry. "Raiwa." Then flashback. "So what happened after that, Naruto-kun?" asked Lee in anticipation. Lee, Dad, and Cannonball helped Megan pull the Fury off of Brian so Rachel could use her powers to destroy it. "Let me tell you, that was one party no one at the Institute is gonna forget anytime soon." "How come?" Kiba probed, Akamaru barking in agreement from his perch atop his master's head. "Well, Rachel had to use the Phoenix Force to create a black hole inside its hardware. So, when it was sucked into the whole singularity, its destruction created a wave of energy that completely wiped out the ballroom and knocked all of us for a loop. It took weeks for us to rebuild the ballroom, and Beast had to run a complete quantum scan on the blast site to make sure the Fury was gone for good this time." "Wow, now that sounds like it was a pretty intense fight," said Tenten. "Yeah, it was," Naruto said, smiling as he remembered the look on Emma's face when she first saw the wrecked ballroom. Just then, the alarm on his watch sounded, snapping him out of his memories. "Oh, man. We'd better head back to the academy, lunch break ends in 15. As they ran back towards the school, Naruto glanced back at his new friends. "I guess I was wrong," he thought as he ran. "This place isn't half bad after all." 9 months after Naruto's first day of school, the time had finally come for him and his classmates to graduate from the Ninja Academy. During this span of time, Naruto had learned that the girl who had been staring at him on his first day was named Hinata Hyuga and that she was indeed listed in Xavier's files. He had been able to talk with her a few times and, despite her constant shyness, the two quickly became good friends. He'd often run errands for Saratobi by the Hyuga mansion and made it a point to say hi to Hinata before he left. Since this morning was the graduation exams, however, Naruto was completely focused on his goal and set about his morning exercise. This consisted of a 5-mile lap around the Namikaze estate and a quick yet grueling sparring session in his gym's virtual reality (VR) chamber, which acted similar to the danger room back in Westchester. After he'd finished, taken a quick shower, and eaten breakfast, he was off and running to the academy. The main test of final exam was over the student's mastery of 2 basic shinobi skills, the Bushin no Jutsu and the Henge no Jutsu. As soon as he got to school, the test began. After a number of students had gone, it was finally his turn. Sasuke had just finished his turn, creating a perfect 4-man squadron of Irukas that each brandished a unique shinobi weapon. He smirked haughtily as he passed Naruto on his way back to his seat. "Humph, let's see the dope top," that he thought smugly. "Piece of cake," said Naruto as he got up and made his way to the front, glaring at Sasuke all the while. Naruto managed to pull off the jutsu, but just barely. All but 2 of his clones were passable, the 2 that weren't looked worse for wear. As soon as the clones dispelled, Naruto went back to his seat and Iruka wrote down his final score. 85%. Naruto had barely managed to pass the exam, but still the blonde gratefully accepted his hit I-8. Naruto fastened it to his forehead and turned to give the class a thumbs up, coupled with his now trademark fox-like grin. So, the dope made it after all, thought Sasuke. Big deal. Later that day, as the school day came to a close, the students rushed outside to their waiting parents, who congratulated them on their graduation to Genin. Even though he'd gotten congratulated by a majority of his teachers and classmates, Naruto still felt a bit of nostalgia for his family back in Westchester. "Man, it's cool that I graduated and all, but I just wish Dad Cold had been here," he thought as he sat on the swing, watching everyone file off. Just then, he noticed Mizuki, one of the Chunin level instructors, approach him from the crowd. "Naruto-kun," said Mizuki nonchalantly. "Happy to finally be a ninja, eh?" "Yeah, it's pretty sweet," he replied. "Well then, how'd you like to go a mission for me? There's a certain scroll in the Hokage library that I'm supposed to acquire for a friend." "Really?" Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. "And exactly what scroll are we talking about here?" "I'm glad you asked, Naruto. It's actually the Yondaime Hokage's forbidden scroll." "The nerve of this creep," Naruto thought, trying to restrain his anger. "That scroll belongs to my real dad. To the Namikaze clan. Why I ought it." "Hold up, Kitkyubi," said, attempting to calm him down. "Chill out for a sec. Remember what Iceman always says, revenge is a dish best served cold. Or, in his case, ice cold." "Yeah, you got a point, Kyubi. I'll show this bastard what happens when you cross my family, and he won't even see it coming, you can count on it." Naruto accepted the mission promptly, then, when he was sure Mizuki had left, went to inform Sarutobi of what he had learned. Needless to say, Sarutobi was just as displeased as Naruto had been by Mizuki's treachery. They then made their own plans for how to deal with the situation. Since Xavier had announced Naruto's transition back to the village, Sarutobi had moved all of Minato's effects back into the Namikaze estate, including the Forbidden Scroll, which now rested in Naruto's library. The both of them agreed for Naruto to go ahead with the stage theft of the scroll, and Naruto also planned a little surprise for the traitor. Later that night, Naruto appeared in the clearing with the 4th scroll mounted on his backpack. He had decided to wear his Xavier's security enforcer's uniform for the occasion, seeing as after tonight, everyone in the village would have heard of the uncanny X-Men. The uniform consisted of a dark red bodysuit with 2 yellow lines traveling from his left side down his leg, extending from under a yellow X over his heart. He also wore a red and black leather jacket with a flame design on the cuffs. He'd sewn a hit I-8 to the right arm, fingerless gloves, combat boots, and a yellow belt. On his face, he wore a red visor. Once he was sure the coast was clear, he sat down beneath a nearby tree, unfurled the scroll and started reading. From far off, one would only assume he was reading jutsu instructions, which was the scene that Iruka came upon when he showed up a few minutes later. "Heh, looks like you found the spot after all, Iruka-sensei," Naruto said as he got to his feet, propping up the scroll. "I was starting to get worried you wouldn't find me." "Sorry I'm late, Naruto," Iruka said apologetically. "I took a less frequented path in order to keep this quiet, like you asked. I must say, you've really thought this through." Mizuki won't even get to lay a finger on the 4th scroll. Suddenly, a hail of kunai shot out of the forest, pinning Iruka to a nearby tree. Naruto barely flinched, he'd smelled Mizuki coming from a mile away. The only reason he didn't alert Iruka was because he wanted to give the traitor a false sense of security. Mizuki stood up on the tree branch he'd perched on a couple yards from them, grinning evilly all the while. "Oh, really, Iruka?" he preened. "And what makes you think that the 2 of you simpletons could stop me, eh?" "That's really simple, Mizuki-sensei," Naruto said. Did you honestly think I'd be so stupid as to steal such a rare artifact on the day I graduate? I may be laid back, but even I know something's stupid when I hear it. That was seriously bad judgment on your part. At this, Mizuki broke into a fit of maniacal laughter, after which he sneered smugly at Naruto, who though rightly confused by this action, had somewhat of an idea of where he would be going with all this. Now, why would you be so loyal to a village that hates you simply for living, huh? Just hand over the damn scroll and spare yourself the trauma. Iruka's eyes widened at what Mizuki was saying. He knew what would come next. Have to get Naruto away from here. He thought as he strained against the knives that held him. It was no use, they were in deep. Naruto, run. Take the scroll and get out of here. I'll keep Mizuki occupied while you get away. Oh, come off it, Iruka, you fool. We both know you hate him too. That bent Mizuki, Naruto rebutted. There's no way Iruka-sensei would be like that. Sure, you would, but not him, it's just impossible. Especially since he's one of the few people that have actually nice to me since I got here, whereas the rest of the freaking village treats me like crap. And do you know why the rest of the freaking village treats you as such? No, Mizuki, don't say it. It's forbidden. There's nothing you can do about it, Iruka. The reason everyone hates you is because the Kyuubi lives within you, Naruto. You're Kyuubi no Kitsune. Oh, now there's a shocker. You're a little late on that one, pal. I've only known the guy for what, 6 years now, Naruto rebutted. And can we quit with all the yelling now? I actually want to hear when I'm 30. At this, both instructors' jaws dropped considerably. He knew, Mizuki thought in astonishment. After a moment, he managed off his surprise, regaining his undaunted composure. Well, it still doesn't make any difference, he said, grasping the large Fuma shuriken on his back, because I'll still be taking that scroll. It's not like it belongs to you anyway, Naruto. Actually, that'd be where you're dead wrong, Mizuki team, Naruto said darkly, narrowing his eyes at the traitor. As he spoke, the air around him began to ripple and twist as heat rose from his body. See, if you'd actually done your homework, you'd have found that the recent DNA evidence that Xavier Oji-sama sent to Yondaime proves that I am the son of Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage. Therefore, the scroll is rightfully mine. But, you chose not to look into it and automatically assume what you just did. Congratulations, numbnuts, all you've done is succeeded in insulting my family and getting me very mad. Now you get to be one of the first to see why my codename in the X-Men is Foxfire. Both Iruka and Mizuki barely saw Naruto move. His arms flew out in a wide arch, the throwing motion almost invisible, like a sudden breeze stirring up fallen leaves and dust across the open clearing. I don't know what he just did, Mizuki thought haughtily, but it won't do him any good. It was then that he saw the blades. 10 of them flew at him silently through the darkness, each about 6 inches long. But these knives weren't solid or made of steel like a kunai, they were made of something different, almost like chakra. They were the color of molten lava, and as they drew closer, Mizuki could feel an intense heat coming from them. He dove to the side in an attempt to avoid the strange projectiles. However, 2 found their mark, slicing clean through his left bicep and thigh. He howled in pain as he landed on a nearby tree branch, clutching his damaged arm. Looking up to glare wrathfully at Naruto, he saw that the blonde had more knives at the ready. And they were growing out of his fingertips. I call them Tsume no Kitsune, claws of the fox, the blonde said as he brought the claws to face level, glaring at Mizuki. The blade's self-sustained luminescence cast an eerie glow on Naruto's visage, making him appear all the more frightening. They're made of pure plasma energy, each one as hot as the sun's surface. Now, normally, I'd use these to split you in half with one swipe and leave it at that, but not this time. No, I want answers. I know someone hired you to secure this scroll, just as you hired me. The only reason I didn't kill you outright was because doing so would have kept your employer's identity a secret. Now either you tell me who hired you, or I force it out of you. You're welcome to come and try, fox brat. Mizuki roared. He clasped the Fuma shuriken once more and swung it at Iruka with all his might. You can't both fight me and defend your precious sensei at the same time. As the bladed projectile flew at him with incredible speed, Iruka's eyes widened in realization of the fact that he wouldn't be able to dodge it. He was going to die. Iruka strained against the kunai once again in desperation, but to no avail. Just as he was sure the shuriken would slice him to pieces, he heard hissing sound, almost like molten steel that had just been doused in ice water. He looked up to see Naruto standing over him with his arms crossed in front of his chest, palms facing out. His claws had formed a sort of shield, which had caught the shuriken. The intense heat was beginning to liquefy the metal, steam rising from its melting form. Iruka saw Naruto wince slightly and noticed that one of the shuriken's edges had dug into his palm. It was in really deep. Naruto, he managed to say, why? Because, you're my friend Iruka-sensei, the young X-man said, turning to smile weakly at him. Even though Kyuubi killed your parents, you still managed to find it in yourself to overlook that and help me out when I needed it, even knowing that thing lives inside me." "Aw, what a touching speech," chortled Mizuki as he got to his feet. "I think I'm going to cry. If you're really this touchy-feely, then killing you will be a walk in the park." Naruto angrily tossed the melting shuriken aside and made an odd seal with his still-clawed hands. "Take your best shot, jackass. I'll give it back to you 1,000-fold. And this time I won't be going easy on you." As the injured traitor charged at him, a kunai spinning in either hand, Naruto shut his eyes in intense focus and summoned every bit of his own chakra he could muster. "And hold back like I did during the test. I've got to give this one 110%. No matter what." Kagebushin, no jutsu. With a sudden bamf of smoke, an army of Narutos appeared around the three, each one bearing the same claws that the original had. It was all Mizuki could do to keep from going slack-jawed at the sight. Iruka saw all this and took it in with a mixed sense of pride and sincere amazement. "Those aren't regular illusions," he thought in astonishment, "they're solid clones. He's managed to master a Jonin-level technique. Truly remarkable." "Hey, Mizuki team." The clones yelled in unison. Mizuki looked around in confusion and panic, not knowing which one to attack. "This just goes to show you why everyone in the academy called me Konoha's #1 maverick ninja. You never know what I'm gonna pull next, believe it." On that note, each of the clones leveled their hands at the traitor, firing their claws at him all at once. The hailstorm of plasma was on him in seconds, slicing him on nearly every part of his body. When it was over, the clones leapt from the trees and descended on him with a series of pulverizing kicks and punches that sent him reeling with each blow. Just as he was about to fight back, the real Naruto appeared in front of him and slashed at him vertically with his claws, adding a renewed strength to the pungent scent of burning flesh that already filled the air. Another, more powerful slash sent him flying backwards against a tree. Naruto fingered a pair of his claws like kunai and used them to pin Mizuki to the tree. "And payback's hell," Mizuki thought ironically as he glanced at Iruka. Satisfied that Mizuki was through, Naruto willed the clones to dispel and retracted his claws. "Nice job on the Kagebushin kit," commented Kyuubi as Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. "Even I had my doubts about that one." "Gee, thanks Kyuubi," Naruto thought sarcastically. "Now, what do you say we have a talk with our black cat wannabe over there?" He strode towards the traitor, stooping down to face level. Just then, he noticed an odd green mark on Mizuki's arm, whereof his knives had sliced him. Without a word, he ripped away the badly shredded fabric to reveal a frighteningly familiar tattoo, stained with blood. A circle with a grinning green skull in the center, tentacles coiling out from under its chin. "So you're one of Strucker's green shirts, eh, Mizuki team?" Naruto snarled, grabbing Mizuki by his collar, so they were face to face. "Heh heh heh," Mizuki wheezed, blood trickling from his mouth. "You aren't as dumb as you look, you half-demon. Save it for the guys at SHIELD, you damn traitor. Now, why did he send you? Why's my father's scroll interest him so much?" "Heh, like you'll ever find out, you," Mizuki spat before tilting his head back, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed something. Seconds later, sickly green foam began to spill from his mouth. "I'll see you in hell, Naruto. Hail Hydra. Immortal Hydra. We shall never be destroyed. Cut off a limb, 2 more shall take," then, he fell silent, the suicide pill having finally ended his pathetic existence. It's kinda ironic. Taking his barren secrets to his well-deserved grave, Naruto thought as he left the body drop and stood to retrieve his sensei. He turned to gaze one last time at the twisted smirk on Mizuki's face. If only he'd shown such loyalty to our village. The fool. After plucking Iruka off the tree, they picked up the 4th scroll and walked back to the village, leaving Mizuki's burnt and bloodied body behind. Naruto knew that a recon team from the local SHIELD outpost picked it up, or an Anbu squad would find it after noticing that Mizuki never returned home. After they had shared a few bowls of ramen at Ichiraku, courtesy of Tucci, the bar's owner, Naruto and Iruka said goodnight and parted ways. Naruto suppressed a yawn as he headed home for a good night's sleep, knowing that tomorrow was going to be a heck of a long day. The following morning, after completing his morning schedule per usual, Naruto headed off to school. He wore his civvies again, which consisted of a day-glow orange jacket, a pair of orange cargos, his regular hit I-8, his crimson sage-issued cyber visor, and a pair of standard-issue sandals. Today was the day they would both be assigned a squad and meet with their Jonin instructors. He arrived at the academy around 9:05 am, prior to taking his usual route over the rooftops of the village. Upon entering his classroom, he was warmly greeted by Iruka and promptly took his seat and switched his iPod to Everyday Superhero by Smash Mouth. Moments later, Uchiha Sasuke entered the room and took his seat in front of Naruto. He glanced back at Naruto for a moment and then did a bit of a double take. Naruto had his feet propped up on his desk, spinning one of his plasma knives between 2 of his fingers. The energy blade became a neon orange blur as it traced a lazy figure 8 around his digits. What the hell is that? He wondered in amazement. Moreover, how is that dope doing that? It was then that he remembered Naruto's stories about the X-Men and mutant heroes from America. So, he was telling the truth, and this was his particular mutant power. By then, a number of the other students had taken notice of the spectacle and began to stare at Naruto in a similar fashion. Sensing their gaze, Naruto looked up at them and paused his music. "What?" he asked, halting the rotation of the knife and willing it to dissipate. Before anyone could say anything else, there was a huge commotion over by the classroom door. Naruto and Sasuke both turned to see what was going on. Apparently, Sakura and Ino Yamanaka had been trying to see who could get to class first and sit next to Sasuke and had become stuck in the doorframe. They were both shoving and shouting at each other while trying to be the first one in. "Move it, forehead girl." Ino yelled at Sakura in annoyance. "Out of the way, Ino pig," was Sakura's response. Finally, Sakura managed to disentangle herself from the blonde girl and rushed to Sasuke, claiming her seat faithfully by his side. "Hey, Sasuke-kun. What's going on?" She smiled, running her fingers through her bright pink hair. "Oh, hi Sasuke-kun." Ino interrupted as she sat down on the side opposite Sakura. "I didn't know you were sitting here." She looked over his shoulder and stuck her tongue out at Sakura, who responded with a death glare that could have dropped an elephant. Sasuke sighed and reclined back into his chair. "Ugh, fangirls. Why the hell is my life such a damn circus?" Once everyone had calmed down, Iruka began his announcement of the graduates' new squads. Naruto was slightly disappointed to hear that he wouldn't be on the same team, as most of his friends he'd known were in the Agenda X-Files. Then, Iruka came to his team. Squad 7. Uzumaki Howlett Naruto, Haruno Sakura, and Uchiha Sasuke. No sooner had those words left his lips than an audible thumping sound reached his ears. He looked up from his clipboard, only to witness Naruto repeatedly beating his head against his desk, a frustrated look adorning his face. "Ugh, why?" Naruto thought in annoyance. "Why do I gotta be on the same team as the alpha emo himself? I ask you, why?" "Hey, don't look at me," Kyuubi replied, a hint of amusement in his voice. "I just live here." "Is something the matter, Naruto?" Iruka asked, raising an eyebrow at the blonde's behavior. Hell yeah." Naruto replied, slamming his hands on his desk as he stood up. "Why do I have Tabi on the same team as Sasuke? He freaking hates me, and in all honesty, the feeling's mutual." "Ugh, I'm sorry Naruto," Iruka said in annoyance, "we simply had nowhere else to place you. You'll just have to grin and bear it." Could this be the same Naruto that had single-handedly defeated a Chunin-level ninja the night before? Naruto responded by sighing audibly, sinking back into his seat as he regretfully resigned to his fate. Oh well, at least Sakura-chan was on his team too. Sure, she had a huge crush on Sasuke, but she'd probably make for better company. Just then, Iruka announced their lunch break. "Okay everyone. Time to break for lunch. Meet back here later so your Jonin senseis can pick you up." "Well, if that's it, I'll see you guys later," Naruto said to his new teammates. "Whatever, dope," Sasuke responded coldly. Naruto stopped just as he was getting ready to leave. "You know what? I'm sick and tired of you calling me that emo boy." He growled as whirled around to stare Sasuke in the face. "You call me that one more time and you'll wish you were 6 feet under." "Yeah right. Like you'd even try it, dope." Sasuke had put an emphasis on the nickname on purpose, simply to spite Naruto. "That's it. You asked for it." Naruto brought his hands to his sides, the air around his fingers snapping in protest as he converted its nitrogen particles into his high-energy plasma claws. At the same time, Sasuke fingered his shuriken holster, ready to pull out a kunai at any moment. Just as Naruto was about to jump Sasuke, one of the other students bumped into him from behind, sending him barreling into Sasuke head first. His and Sasuke's lips met in an embarrassing and greatly disturbing kiss which sent Sakura and Ino, as well as the other fangirls in the classroom, into a panicked frenzy. "Naruto. Get your lips off of Sasuke-kun, baka." Sakura screamed, a huge vein appearing on her forehead. "Aya!" shrieked inner Sakura in pure terror. "Yeah, get off of my man, you freak," shouted Ino. Naruto was more than happy to comply with her request, leaping back onto his desk and scraping his lips and tongue with his claws frantically. "Never be clean, never be clean, never be clean," he thought in disgust. Sasuke, at the same time, fell to the floor with a hand cupped over his mouth to keep down the bile that rose in his throat. "I'm gonna kill you, Naruto." However, before he could say another word, Naruto vanished in a black cloud of smoke. The lingering smell of brimstone caused the Uchiha to wrinkle his nose in disgust, as the taste of sulfur in the air made him gag and gasp for breath, not helping his nausea at all. After his coughing spell and nausea subsided, he looked out the window to see Naruto reappear on a tree branch a few yards away from the building. Sasuke glared angrily at the blonde as he smirked at him and gave him the finger before teleporting away again. Naruto Sasuke thought in annoyance as the rest of the class left. A few hours later, after Naruto and his friends had met up at Ichiraku's for lunch, most of the teams that had met back at the academy had already been picked up. However, Squad 7 Sensei was phenomenally late, they had been waiting there for 2 hours. By that time, Naruto had gotten fed up with waiting and decided to set up a little surprise for their Jonin sensei. Pulling out a length of Tetsujin, ninja wire, a water balloon, and a vial of grey liquid, he began laying his trap. The final result was balloon tied to a wire that would burst open on the Jonin's head once his foot tugged the tripwire, spilling its contents all over his face. Sasuke was a bit irked by the whole scenario, remembering the face full of smoke he'd gotten earlier. Yo dope, what the hell is that supposed to be? Just a little something to remind our sensei to show up on time, Naruto responded. Sakura signed at the blonde's actions. However, inner Sakura was a completely different matter. Oh, man. I love stuff like this. In my break, the guy's a Jonin, Sasuke reasoned. He wouldn't fall for something so stupid like that. Really now? I did the same thing to Beast last year in biology. It worked like a charm then. Just then, as if on cue, their silver-haired Jonin opened the door with a hentai novel in his hands, triggering the makeshift pendulum swing. The water balloon burst against the side of his head, the grey liquid coating his face. As soon as it made contact with the air, it hardened into a sticky substance that suctioned onto his face, temporarily blinding him. Before he could even reach up to pull at whatever was on his face, he felt his legs get kicked out from under him, slamming him to the floor. In seconds, his book and shuriken holster were stripped from him as his hands were secured behind his back. Suddenly, the substance on his face was burned away, and he was staring at a grinning Naruto. "See team?" He beamed at a surprised Sasuke. "I told you it would work. Could you let me up?" Kakashi said with a hint of annoyance in his voice. "I'd like to not have to hurt you." "Sorry about that," Naruto said as he helped Kakashi to his feet and returned his novel and holster. "But, you can expect more of that if you're gonna be late like that again." "Baka!" yelled Sakura as she swung at Naruto with a mean right hook. The blonde barely managed to get out of the way in time, sliding under her punch using a pencaxilit feint that his father had taught him. As he did so, Kakashi took note this action silently. Apparently, Naruto was one to keep an eye on, same as Sasuke. He knew that Sandayame had told him that Naruto wanted no special treatment from anyone, especially Kakashi, since he had a bit of a history with his father, James Howlett. In many ways, the boy was almost a mirror image of the Wolverine he'd been partners with during the last great Shinobi War. While Kakashi was remembering his past with Naruto's father and Sakura was trying in vain to hit Naruto, Sasuke was examining the burnt pieces of whatever had been stuck to the Jonin's face. It was sticky to the touch and seemed to have incredible tensile strength. His kunai had barely been able to slice into it, and even then it had gotten stuck. "Hey dope," he finally asked, "what the heck is this crap?" "That would be grade A spider silk," Naruto replied with a grin as he folded his hands behind his head. At this point, Sakura had given up on trying to pummel him. "A few months after I'd officially joined the X-Men's field ops, some friends and I were hanging out at a mall in New York City. Unfortunately, it was also the same mall that Scorpion, Rhino, and the Jester had decided to hold up that day too. We managed to hold him off until Spider-Man showed up, after which we both took those 3 clowns down no problem. Afterwards, Spidey agreed to lend me the formula for his webbing fluid. I only brought enough chemicals with me for a small batch though, and that was it." "HMP," was the Uchiha's only response. "Well," Kakashi said at last, drawing their attention back to him. "My first impression of this group, you're a bunch of idiots. Okay, follow me to the roof. Let's chat." At that, Kakashi vanished in a puff of smoke. Naruto considered teleporting at first, but thought better of it and took the stairs with the rest of his team, not wanting to flaunt his mimicry. Minutes later, they all arrived on the roof and took a seat in front of the silver-haired Jonin, who was thumbing through his Icha Paradise novel like it was his one and only lifeline. Upon noticing their arrival, he sighed audibly and shut his book. "Okay, now that we're all here, let's introduce ourselves." Sensei," began Sakura. "Could you give us an example of how it would go?" "Ugh, these kids today are completely clueless," he thought. "Alright then, I guess it couldn't hurt. My name is Hatake Kakashi. My likes and dislikes are honestly none of your concern, and my dreams are not appropriate for me to mention to you kids. Okay, you go next, Pinky." Well, that was useless. All we learned was his frickin' name, thought inner Sakura in annoyance. "Well, my name is Haruno Sakura, my likes are," she glanced at Sasuke and giggled, "my dreams are," she glanced at him again and blushed a little. "And your dislikes, Sakura?" Kakashi asked. Her response was, Naruto. Oh, an Ino pig. Those are some strong words, Sakura, Kakashi replied. Okay, you next. He gestured toward Sasuke. Sasuke, who had been quietly staring into space until now, peered over his interlocked fingers to stare at Kakashi with his piercing, red eyes. My name is Uchiha Sasuke, he began. I don't have many likes to speak of. I dislike many things. As for my dreams, I'm going to restore my clan and take my revenge on a certain someone who it has been my ambition to destroy for many years now. Although Kakashi was a bit concerned with the young Uchiha's obsession with vengeance, as it could become a hindrance psychologically as well as in combat, he was satisfied for now and turned to Naruto and had him do the same. My name's Uzumaki Howlett Naruto, the blonde said enthusiastically. My likes are ramen, motorcycles, American music, drawing, video games, the martial arts, going on missions, and getting into a good scrap every now and then. My dislikes are mutant haters, people who think they're all that, fighting people who monologue a lot, and the fact that there is no such thing real instant ramen. As for my dreams, I'm going to be the next Hokage someday, establishing the Land of Fire as an ally with the US, and starting up my own branch of the X-Men here in Konohagakure. Considering what both Iruka and Sandaime-sama told me, Kakashi thought, Naruto was a member of the X-Men's field team when he was 11, so he's seen his share of battles in the past 2 years. This ought to be very interesting. He got to his feet and looked the kids over for a moment. Okay, now that the formalities are out of the way, I'd like you all to meet me at the training grounds tomorrow morning for a mandatory skill test. But Kakashi-sensei, Sakura said in confusion, we already went through that for the Genin exams. Yes, well, this is somewhat of a survival test, just to see if you can stand up to a Jonin in actual combat. The silver-haired Jonin turned to leave, and then turned to smirk at them from beneath his mask. Oh, one more thing. Don't eat any breakfast before doing this. Anyhow, see you tomorrow. Kakashi left them with that thought as he teleported away, and they went their separate ways. Somehow they all had a feeling that tomorrow was going to be a step up from what they were used to. They'd have to bring their A game if they wanted to have a chance at whatever Kakashi had planned for them. The morning following their meeting with Kakashi, Naruto woke early that morning and set out without his usual breakfast, according to Kakashi's explicit instruction. Though it went against his better judgment, he figured that it was better to follow the Jonin's advice. He arrived at the appointed spot on time, dressed in his usual orange civilian attire. However, this time he including his steel-toed combat boots, fingerless gloves, and cyber visor as he had yesterday. As soon as he got there, he saw Sasuke and Sakura sprawled out beneath a shady tree, both their stomachs growling loud enough for him to hear from just a few yards away. Although they appeared to have gotten plenty of sleep, they were wide awake from hunger. After greeting each other wearily, Naruto produced a sketchpad and pencil from one of the inner pockets of his jacket and began to sketch out the landscape to help take his mind off his intense hunger. Naruto had picked up an interest in art from his uncle Piotr, Colossus. He often sketched when he felt a sense of calm, like he wanted to preserve that feeling of peace. Being associated with the X-Men, he'd seen more than his fair share of prejudice against mutants, so he took what little peace of mind he could find. Now, as he sketched, he paid particular attention to the detail of an onyx diamond-shaped monument parallel to a trio of stumps that looked as though they'd seen a lot of shurikenjutsu practice. As the hours seemed to crawl by, neither of the trio muttered a word synonymous with hunger, though their stomachs spoke for them. After a while, Naruto finished his artwork and began cycling through his iPod's music library to pass the time. More than once Sakura became interested in his music and he politely gave her an earphone. Naruto did like Sakura a lot, but he knew she was completely obsessed about Sasuke, and though he was annoying, still, she was a nice person. Finally, their sensei came strolling up after nearly 3 hours. Sakura immediately leapt to her feet and pointed an accusing finger at Kakashi, uprooting Naruto by the ear at the same time, as they were both listening to Candy Dulfer's Finsbury Park Cafe 67. You're late. She yelled in frustration. Sorry, I got lost on the road of life, Kakashi replied with an amused grin beneath his mask. The sight of Sakura nearly ripping off Naruto's ear was a bit comical. Anyhow, now that you're all here, the test can begin. I can assume that you all followed my instructions and skipped breakfast. As if to answer for him, all 3 of the Genin stomachs growled loudly. Well, that stint of deception was a success, Kakashi thought as he removed his backpack and removed an alarm clock. Okay, this clock is set for noon. Your assignment is simple. You just have to steal these bells from me. He reached behind his back and produced a pair of silver jingle bells, both joined by a length of string. That's all there is to it. If you can't get him within the allotted time, you go without lunch. You'll also be tied to those posts and watch me eat the bells themselves in front of you. So that's why he didn't want us to eat, Sasuke realized. Ugh. That's really gross. Sakura thought, shivers of disgust running along the length of her spine. Feel free to use any weapons you like, including shuriken. If you aren't prepared to kill me, then you won't be able to get the bells. And the test begins, now. Kakashi immediately teleported away and reappeared in the clearing. He immediately began thumbing through his Icha Paradise novel and started reading as soon as he found his spot. Okay, Naruto thought when the Jonin reappeared. Dad threw something almost like this at us at the last field day. We can do this as long as we stick it was then Thade looked over his shoulder to see his teammate splinter off in two directions. Together. Man, so much for teamwork. Still, Naruto flickered away and reappeared behind a thicket of shrubs. He knew beforehand that he'd have a better chance at catching Kakashi off guard if he had some cover. After he'd hidden, he shut his eyes in concentration and slammed his fist against his opposing palm. Like all of his clothes, the ones he wore had been treated with Reed Richards' unstable molecules and were programmed to change his civilian attire into his XSE uniform upon mental command. Once his suit had changed, he made his move. Claws at the ready, Naruto ran silently along the length of the thicket low to the ground, firing off his claws at Kakashi as he went. He personally favored hand-to-hand combat, but he knew that wouldn't get him anywhere against the silver-haired Jonin. He watched as the plasma claws shot towards Kakashi with near-blinding speed and was a bit surprised when the Jonin began to bob and weave around them, never once taking his eyes off his novel. Damn, Naruto mentally cursed in aggravation. Oh well, I always did favor the direct approach. Time for a little martial arts action. He performed a quick Kage Bushin no Jutsu, then leapt from the brush with his clones, claws out, and sprinting towards Kakashi low to the ground. Looks like the rumors were true after all, Kakashi thought, looking coolly over the pages of his book at the incoming clones. He might actually prove to be a bit of a challenge, just like Sasuke should. He nimbly sidestepped a slash from the first clone that attacked and then dropped into a low stance to sweep kick its legs out from under it. The clone slammed face first into the dirt and dispelled in a puff of smoke. Not wasting a single movement, the copy nin rose from his low crouch and nailed another clone that had aimed a kick at his head with a punishing uppercut. That clone was sent flying backwards. Your skills are quite impressive, Naruto, but you won't pass at this rate, the Jonin goaded as the clone dispelled several feet away from him, leading with your chin like that. Don't count me out yet, Naruto rebutted, vaulting off one of the clones' backs as they charged Kakashi. I'm just getting started. He leveled his hands at Kakashi in midair and fired off two sets of claws at him, one after the other. At the same time, the three remaining clones closed in on the copy nin in a pincer formation, slashing at him from the front, the left, and the right almost simultaneously. Kakashi quickly leapt back to dodge the energy claws, then grabbed the clone to his right with an arm lock. He then heaved the clone over his shoulder with all his might and sent it hurtling into the other two, which in turn caused all three to dispel. Kakashi had expected Naruto to be unsettled by the quick destruction of his clones. However, Naruto ran at him full force as soon as he hit the ground, swiping at the Jonin's face with his claws. Kakashi barely managed to move out of the way, the blades raking the air inches from his mask. Recovering quickly, he ducked under one of Naruto's kicks and caught him by his unbalanced leg, flipping the blonde to the ground. However, as he hit, Naruto switched his fighting style to Brazilian Capoeira and whipped his legs in a pinwheel motion over his body, pushing off with his hands at the same time. He then brought his feet together to kick at Kakashi with twice the force of a normal blow. But instead of Kakashi, he connected only with empty space. Naruto landed in a crouch and quickly scanned the area for the copy nin. Where is he? Naruto wondered. That kick should have flattened him. How did he dodge it? Just then he felt a strong rush of chakra behind him. Oh, crap. Too slow, Kakashi remarked from his position behind the blonde. From her hiding spot in the brushes, Sakura had a clear view of their sensei and saw him bring his hands together to create what looked like is that the tiger seal. She thought frantically. He's not kidding around, he's going to destroy Naruto. Panicking, she rose from her hiding spot and screamed a warning at her teammate. Naruto. Get out of there, he's gonna demolish you. Kakashi, ignoring her cries, continued his lecture. Never let your enemy get behind you, he criticized. He then shifted in his crouch and rose up to attack. Konohagakure's ultimate secret taijutsu. Suddenly, Naruto felt an extremely unpleasant sensation centered on his ass and then was forcefully catapulted into the air. Senengarashi, 1000 years of pain. Kakashi finished as Naruto splashed down into a nearby stream. When the blonde didn't resurface, he went over to the stream and scanned the waters for his young charge. He must have let the current carry him downstream into the forest so he could regroup and come up with a new plan, the Jonin thought as his eyes flowed the stream. He then turned his attention back to his book. Oh well. Now, where was I? A few yards away from where Kakashi was reading and Sakura was frantically looking for a new place to hide, seeing as her warning had tipped off her location, Naruto hauled himself out of stream and slumped against a nearby tree. Okay, he anticipated every one of my moves, I can respect that. But that was really uncalled for, he thought aloud as he rummaged around in his jacket. Ah hell, it was worth it. He never noticed what I was really aiming for with that last swipe. As he spoke, Naruto produced one of the bells from his pocket, he'd managed to slice it free from Kakashi's jacket on his last attack. It jingled as he shook with glee. Reorienting his thoughts, he looked around the trunk of the tree to ensure he wasn't being watched. Okay, now I just need to find Sakura or Sasuke and convince them that we should take him together. HMMP. Let's see how high and mighty Sasuke team is when I show up with a bell and he's got Jack. Suddenly, Naruto saw something out of the corner of his eye. Looking down at his hand, he saw that the bell he'd stolen had been replaced by a walnut haloed by smoke. What? He yelled in surprise, sending a flock of nearby birds airborne. He used Kawarimi on the bell I swiped. He then noticed a piece of notebook paper had been stuck to the nut. It read. Naruto. Nice try, but no dice. A ninja must learn to see what's underneath the underneath. You're talented, that I'll admit, but you still need practice. Oh, and watch your footing. Adake Kakashi. What does he mean, watch my fuwa? Naruto managed to say before getting swept up off his feet and yanked high into the air. In all his excitement, he'd gotten his foot. He must have come here last night and rigged this entire forest with booby traps, knowing one of us would trip one, he realized as he swung back and forth by his ankle, staring at the ground. Why the hell couldn't I see this thing? He muttered in annoyance. I'm so stupid. Elsewhere in the forest, while Naruto was busy disentangling his ankle from Kakashi's snare, Sakura was frantically searching for Sasuke, whom she'd lost track of at the start of the test. She ran as fast and as silent as she could, keeping her guard up in case she was ambushed by Kakashi. Sasuke, where'd you go? She wondered as she sprinted along the forest floor. Don't tell me Kakashi-sensei found you, no. He can't capture my Sasuke-kun, I won't let him. No sooner had that thought entered her mind that she stopped abruptly in her tracks and ducked behind a tree. Quietly peering around its trunk, she glimpsed Kakashi a few feet away from her, eyes glued to his copy of Icha Paradise. Ryu, that was too close. He almost heard me that time. PSSST. Sakura, behind you. Brightly surprised, Sakura whirled around to come face to face with Kakashi. Somehow, he'd managed to sneak up behind her while leaving an after image on the other side of the tree. Just as she was about to scream, the copy nin formed a dual-handed ram seal and was instantly covered over by a thicket of bushes that seemed to move around him of their own accord. Sakura herself was surrounded by a whirlwind of leaves. Suddenly, as quickly as it appeared, the cyclone of leaves vanished, as did Kakashi, leaving Sakura alone in a spacious clearing. Oh my. Sakura squeaked in shock. Expecting an attack, she whipped her head around in every direction, checking all around her for the elusive silver-haired Jonin. Just then, something to her right moved. SS Sakura, a familiar voice said weakly. Sasuke-kun. She exclaimed with joy, turning to face her crush. However, her excitement was short-lived as she saw the Uchiha was literally skewered by a number of kunai, shuriken, senbon, and what looked to be a spear embedded between his shoulder blades. Sakura, help me. Please, help me. He pleaded, sinking to his knees as he leaned against a nearby tree. However, Sakura could barely do anything at the moment. The shock of seeing Sasuke in such a state was too much of her to bear. Aiya. She shrieked at the top of her lungs before fainting comically on the forest floor. Over on a nearby tree branch, Kakashi watched her reaction to the genjutsu he'd placed on her. I think I may have overdone it a bit, he thought aloud as he leapt to the ground. But then again, she's got to learn these things. Nearby, Sasuke had watched the entire ordeal unfold as well, though he couldn't see what Sakura had seen. HMP, a genjutsu, he said under his breath to avoid detection by the Jonin. I'm not surprised he caught her with it. But, I'm not like her and the dope. Say that after you've gotten one of these bells, said Kakashi, flickering into view behind him. Sasuke-kun, he added in a sing-song voice to toy with the Uchiha. The two stared each other down for a moment, the eyes of each locked on the other's, waiting for any sign of movement from the other. Finally, Sasuke went on the attack, hurling a volley of kunai and shuriken at the Jonin. Kakashi simply leapt to the side to avoid the flying blades. There's no point in normal attacks, he said calmly. Sasuke smirked at his remark and chucked a kunai off into the bushes to his right. All of a sudden, a huge log, suspended by a length of rope, swung towards Kakashi with surprising speed. He set me up with one of my own traps, the copy nin thought as he leapt over the log. He may be on the same level as Naruto. Damn, I won't be able to read Icha Paradise anymore. The second Kakashi's feet hit the ground, Sasuke was on him. He leapt up to deliver a powerful kick to the Jonin's head, only to have it blocked and his ankle caught in his opponent's grasp. He then swung at Kakashi with a mean left hook, which the copy nin caught in his palm. Not wasting a second, he whipped his free leg around to attempt an axe kick at the crown of his opponent's head. It was easily blocked. Sasuke smirked visibly. Gotcha. His axe kick had flipped him upside down into a position to where he was close enough to make a grab for the bells. Just as his index finger tapped one of the bells, Kakashi hastily released him and skidded backwards out of reach. The second after he'd righted himself midair, Sasuke began to weave hand seals at blinding speeds. He finished on the tiger seal as he landed, then brought his right index finger and thumb to his mouth, mimicking a blowtorch. Pain. Gakakyu no Jutsu, fire style. Great fireball technique. What? Kakashi exclaimed in honest surprise. Genin can't use fire jutsu. There's no way. Wrong answer, Sasuke thought as he exhaled a jet of intense flame. The where Kakashi had stood only seconds ago was quickly engulfed in flames. As the last lick of fire leapt from his lips, Sasuke took a moment to observe his work. However, upon closer inspection, he saw that there was no trace of the silver-haired Jonin. He instinctively looked around the immediate area for his opponent, knowing that he could strike from any direction. Now, where will you come at me from? He thought aloud. Just then, he felt something grab his ankle. Surprised, he glanced down to see a hand sticking out of the ground and latched onto his ankle with surprising strength. From where you least expect me, said Kakashi's voice, answering his question. Before he even had time to register what happened, Sasuke found himself buried up to his neck in the ground. Doten. Shinju's Anshu no Jutsu, Earth style. Headhunter technique, Kakashi stated as Sasuke began to strain his now trapped muscles to break free. Stuck are you? Now that's a damn shame. And only a short window of opportunity remaining for you to try and pass. Leaving Sasuke with that thought, Kakashi flickered away to see what Naruto was up to, leaving the disgruntled Uchiha to try and dig himself out of his earthen prison. Damn. I almost had one of the bells. Sasuke thought as he began to scrape away the earth that held his arms in place. All of a sudden, he felt something strange come over him. It felt as though his brain was trying to frantically tear its way out of his skull. In front of him, the world began to become blurred and fuzzy. Ugh, what the hell's happening to me? He thought as he frantically shook his head in attempt to correct his vision and block out the pain. When he opened his eyes again, the world was back in focus and he could feel the pain in his mind fading. Just then Sakura, who had apparently come to from the genjutsu, sprinted past him. She noticed him out of the corner of her eye and spun to face him. When she first saw him fully, the look on her face gave Sasuke the impression that she was going to faint again. Whoa. Hold it, Sakura, he said, attempting to calm her. However, that only made things worse. Aya. Sasuke-kun's just ahead without a body and he's talking. She shrieked before fainting to the ground with a loud thud. That's my partner. Sasuke thought aloud as he managed to burst one of his hands free of the earth. A few moments later, he had finally escaped and was attempting to wake Sakura with some smelling salts from his ninja tool holster. What fresh new hell is this? Meanwhile, Naruto was dashing silently through the trees, leaping from branch to branch, nostrils flaring as he used his heightened sense of smell to track down his teammates. Anytime he'd come close to something that had an extremely faint scent of Kakashi, he skirted around it, knowing that it was most likely a trap. Suddenly, a new scent wafted towards him through the air. Ramen. That stench, that heavenly stench, he said softly in disbelief, drawing nearer to the smell. As he landed on another tree branch, he saw that he was back at the Onyx monument from earlier. Resting at its base was the source of the intoxicating aroma, a pair of bento that had steam wafting from the folds on the sides. Man, that's low, even for Kakashi-sensei, he said clutching his growling stomach. A ninja must learn to see underneath the underneath. Well, I'm not falling for that trick twice in one day. Naruto turned to take off, then stopped for a second. The smell of the ramen in that bento was so tempting. Finally, after a second of contemplation, hunger won out over all else. He leapt from the tree and swiped both boxes in one fell swoop before bounding back behind a nearby tree. Okay, maybe just a little bite wouldn't hurt, he decided as he cracked open one of the boxes, the sweet aroma of ramen flooding his senses. Hey there, came Kakashi's voice from above him. Naruto winced and turned his head upwards to see Kakashi staring down at him from a tree branch. Yeah, said Naruto sheepishly, I was just kidding sensei. Honestly. Of course you were Naruto, said the copy nin. In a flash, Kakashi had Naruto tied to one of the stumps and was dangling the bento just out of reach of the blonde. You really should have stuck to the rules, Naruto. These would have been waiting for you after the test was over. Naruto grinned slyly, hinting to Kakashi that something was up. Yeah, but then again, I'm not Naruto, said the clone before it dispelled in a puff of smoke. Just then Kakashi sensed a source of charka behind him and leapt to one side as the real Naruto crashed into the spot where he had been only a second ago. "I know a trap when I smell one, and those bento had your scent all over them," Naruto said as he ran at Kakashi, claws out at either side. He was inches from nailing the copy nin when suddenly, the alarm clock went off. The test was over, and he'd failed. "Time's up," Kakashi remarked as he removed a length of Tetsujin wire from his ningu holster. He quickly became a blur as he ran circles around both Naruto and one of the stumps. Skidding to a stop, he tugged once on wire, and Naruto found himself slammed into the stump, unable to break the wire that held him, even with his plasma claws. "A little memento from the last great shinobi war," the Jonin told him as he struggled against his bonds. "Tetsujin made of a special heat-resistant alloy for just such an occasion. That was a good try, but you still get tied to the stump." Naruto glared at Kakashi for a moment, then compassed himself as his teammates strode out of trees and sat down in front the stumps on either side of him. They took one look at the bento on top of the stumps and groaned. "Your stomachs are growling, eh?" Kakashi asked sarcastically. "That's too bad. Oh, by the way, the results of this exercise, none of you need to return to the academy." Now that surprised the trio, especially Sakura and Naruto. "What?" Sakura questioned. "All I did was faint and fall over. Does that count for something?" At the same time, inner Sakura was simply elated by what she'd heard. Love prevails once again. Cha. "So that means all three of us?" Naruto began, a hint of confusion in his voice. "Yes," Kakashi said, "all three of you are going to be dropped from the program." "What? What do you mean, dropped from the program? Why?" Sakura yelled in surprise. Next to her, Naruto simply shook his head and smirked. "Here we go," he thought. "Now we get to the heart of the matter. Because you're just a bunch of kids who don't even deserve to be shinobi," reasoned Kakashi nonchalantly. To Naruto's right, Sasuke gritted his teeth in rage and ran at Kakashi full force, reaching for his ningu holster. Kakashi had him pinned to the ground in seconds, his foot resting on Sasuke's head. "See, you still think like little kids instead of shinobi. In other words, you three don't understand the nature of this test. That's what determines whether you pass or fail, like you did so miserably. Why do you think we were training you all in groups of 3? "But," Sakura began. "We've been asking why that is. Geez, are you all that empty-headed? Why do you think you all are in a group?" After a moment of silent contemplation, Kakashi decided they'd had enough. "Teamwork," he said in aggravation. Naruto knew where he was going with all of this, but he decided it would be better for his teammates if he kept his mouth shut and listened as Kakashi continued his lecture. "It makes more sense for you to try and take me as a group. You would have been able to at least secure the bells. But you guys went off on your own." "Wait," Sakura interjected, attempting to make sense of what Kakashi was saying. "Why use teamwork when there are only 2 bells? Sure, 2 of us would succeed, but 1 of us would fail. That would lead to group conflict instead of teamwork." "Of course the test pits you against one another," Kakashi said. "In a situation like this, we'd select those who prioritize teamwork before themselves. That was the purpose, but you all were pathetic. Sakura. You cared more about Sasuke than Naruto, even though he was right in front of you, and you had no idea where Sasuke was." Kakashi turned to Naruto and addressed him next. "Naruto, granted you took a great gamble for your teammates' sake by fighting me head-on, but all you did was work on your own. I'm sure that the X-Men taught you that there's no such thing as a one-man army. And you," he said, pressing down slightly on Sasuke's head, "assumed that the other 2 were only going to be a burden and did everything yourself. Missions are done as a team. It's important that shinobi have unique and well-developed skills, but teamwork is much more vital. An individual action that disrupts such teamwork results in danger and even death for the teammates." For example, he reached into his ningu holster and produced a wickedly sharp kunai, pressing it against Sasuke's throat. "Sakura. Kill Naruto now or Sasuke dies." Seeing Sasuke's life in danger for what she figured was the 3rd time today, Sakura immediately panicked and frantically looked at Naruto and then back at Sasuke, trying to decide which to save. Naruto simply sighed and looked up at the sky, completely unfazed. As the son of Wolverine, he'd been the subject of many a hostage situation in the past, plus he had complete confidence that if Sakura did try to kill him, his healing factor would compensate for any injuries he sustained. "That's what'll happen," Kakashi said as he pocketed the kunai, prompting a sigh of relief from Sakura. "In a hostage situation, you'll have a difficult decision to make and someone will end up dead." Kakashi stood up and walked away from Sasuke, towards the Onyx Monument. He stopped a few feet from it, memories of his past flooding into his mind. Faces he wouldn't soon forget. "In every mission," he began, a slight breeze rustling throughout the trees, "you'll be putting your life on the line. This monument is a cenotaph. The names engraved here include those of some of my closest friends, heroes of the village. all of them are dead, KIA. He let that sink in for a moment, letting them consider his words, while silently honoring those friends he'd lost in combat. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of silence, he spoke up again. I'll give you one last chance. However, it'll be a lot harder than before. You'll have 3 hours to complete the test, eat now to gather strength. But don't give Naruto any, as punishment for breaking the rules and trying to eat early. The person that feeds him will immediately fail. He leaned in close to the trio, a seemingly malicious gleam in his eyes. I make the rules here, got that? With that, he flickered away, leaving them to their lunch. As they began to eat, both Sakura and Sasuke noticed that Naruto's stomach began to growl even louder with each passing moment. Sensing their gaze, Naruto beamed his foxy grin at them and tried to relax a bit. It's no big deal guys, he reassured them. I'll be fine. No sooner had he spoken that his stomach roared again, the scent of the ramen in the bento quickly becoming too great to bear. Oh, man. Would he have to put miso ramen in those things? Here, Sasuke said, handing him his bento. This immediately surprised Naruto and Sakura. Sakura practically choked on the bite of onigiri she'd been eating. This was so unlike him. Okay, which scroll world are you from and what did you do with Sasuke team? Naruto asked jokingly. Now he gets it, he thought silently. Just shut up and eat, dope. What? No Sasuke-kun, Sakura began, looking left and right. Kakashi-sensei just said. It's alright, I don't sense his chakra nearby, Sasuke reasoned. Look, if we want any chance at getting those bells, then we'll need to do this together. Naruto will just be a liability in his current state. Gee, thanks for your overwhelming confidence Sasuke, Naruto said sarcastically. Sasuke-kun thought Sakura. The dark-haired Uchiha's determined and grim attitude seemed to reflect their earlier conversation when she'd awoke. Only I can kill that man, he'd said to her. I am an avenger. My sole purpose to become stronger than him. I can't afford to screw up here. Sakura looked at her own bento for a moment and then offered it to Naruto. Her sudden act of kindness really struck a chord with Naruto, even though he tried his best not to show it. She really did care about him after all. From his position behind a tree a few yards away, Kakashi smiled to himself beneath his mask. He mused, looks like they're finally beginning to understand. As Sakura-chan, arigato, Naruto said sincerely. You don't need to thank me, really, Sakura replied with a smile. Just hurry and eat. He started to protest, but she cut him off before he could say anything. Look, I'm on a diet, I don't eat as much as Sasuke-kun. So don't worry about it. It's not that, it's just, I kind of can't move my hands to my mouth, see? Naruto reasoned, demonstrating for her by straining against the Tetsujin wire. It was true, Kakashi had wrapped him up tight. Sakura's eyebrow twitched slightly at this, vein forming on her forehead. You gotta be kidding me. Inner Sakura raged. Hurry it up, Sasuke rushed them, checking from right to left. We don't know when he'll be back. Just feed him and get it over with. Ugh, Sakura groaned as she served up a length of ramen noodles. I'm only doing this once, got it Naruto. Got it Sakura-chan, the blonde replied. I won't breathe a word of this to anyone, especially Ino. Somewhat satisfied, Sakura fed him his miso ramen as he made a mental note to Kyuubi to keep this memory on file for later. It was then that the ramen hit his taste buds. Oh god. He thought in pure ecstasy. This has got to be the best miso ramen I've ever tasted. No sooner had he swallowed that bite of ramen that a huge explosion erupted in front of them, creating a massive shockwave that threatened to knock them back into the stumps. Suddenly, Kakashi appeared from the cloud of dust that resulted from the blast. What could be seen of his face was contorted in rage. You three. He roared. Sakura immediately panicked and threw her hands up to protect herself. To her right, Naruto and Sasuke braced for an attack, Naruto flicking out his plasma claws. He knew they wouldn't be any good, tied down as he was, but he planned on going out fighting with his teammates regardless. You three have broken the rules, Kakashi said menacingly. Are you ready to face the consequences? He formed a dual-handed ram seal, and suddenly an incredible thunderstorm manifested in the sky. The clouds blotted out the sun, lightning scorched the earth around them, a massive cyclone touched down over them, cutting them off from escape. Any last words? The copy-nin questioned. Sasuke and Naruto glanced at one another for a moment, then glared back at Kakashi. We're a team, right? Sasuke asked, eyeing Naruto. All for one, and one for all, Naruto replied, grinning at Kakashi. The three of us are one. By this time, Sakura had cued into what the boys were talking about and decided it was time she backed them up. That's right. She shouted, her voice filled with renewed confidence. The three of us are one. We're all a team. So the three of you are one, eh? Kakashi asked darkly. That's your excuse. Naruto and Sasuke steeled themselves for what they knew would be coming next. Total annihilation. Sakura winced as the lightning flashed ominously overhead. Then, everything was quiet. The wind and lightning ceased, the clouds rolled away, and the sun shone as brightly as it had a few minutes ago. "You pass," said a grinning Kakashi. "Wah," said the trio in surprise. "You pass. Pass, but why?" asked a rightly befuddled Sakura. "You guys are the first," the copy nin explained as he began to untie Naruto. Once the bonds were off, Naruto began to rub his sore arms where the wire had bit into them. "The others I tested were idiots who just did as I instructed them. You guys were the first to think for yourselves. A ninja must learn to see underneath the underneath. True, in the shinobi world those who break the rules are branded scum. But those who abandon their comrades, their friends, are worse than scum." HMP, same creed, same mysterious air, same teaching styles, Naruto thought as he smiled and shook his head. "No wonder he's your friend, Dad. You guys are so much alike." "Alright. The training is over," continued Kakashi. "You all pass. Team 7 starts their first official mission tomorrow. Now, how about we celebrate over at Ichiraku Ramen? My treat this time. An offer you may soon regret, Kakashi-sensei," joked Naruto as he and Team 7 headed back to the village. The rest of the day was filled with celebration and excitement for all of the Rookie 9 as they rejoiced in the fact that they'd survived their team's first grueling test as shinobi. As far as Naruto and Team 7 were concerned, tomorrow couldn't have sounded more like a brighter day. It was another wonderful, sunny day in the village of Konohagakure. While the rest of the village was absorbed in its day-to-day activities, a small brown cat was strolling through the forest on the village outskirts, a small bow tied around its neck. However, the feline was unaware that its movements were being tracked by a pair of eyes hidden behind a crimson visor. By a stroke of luck, Naruto had managed to finally locate the cat with both his enhanced sense of smell and his visor's infrared mode. From his position behind an aging tree, Naruto radioed in fine to his teammates. "Sasuke team, Sakura-chan, target confirmed," he whispered into his comlink. "What's your status, guys?" "I'm in the tree 20 meters south of your position," Sasuke responded. "What kept you, dope?" "I'd already found this thing 3 minutes ago. I had a hard time locating it with my visor. There are a lot of cat-sized heat signatures in this forest. Okay geez, Sakura-chan, how about you?" "I'm behind a bush, a yard or so away from the target," Sakura radioed back. "And quit talking to Sasuke-kun like that, Naruto. It's not his fault you couldn't find it." "Alright team," came Kakashi's voice on all 3 channels. "You know what to do." "Roger," they responded. Naruto switched his comm link off and counted down silently. 3, 2, 1, now. At that moment, all 3 shinobi leaped from their hiding spots and tackled the unsuspecting cat. When the dust settled, Naruto was the one holding the cat, which was attempting to latch onto his face and scratch the living hell out of him. "Target retrieval successful," Sasuke radioed in. "Excellent job," Kakashi said. "Can you confirm the target's identity? Are you sure it's Tora?" "Of course it's frickin' Tora. We've only caught this damn cat, what, 55 times," Naruto yelled over the comm link. It was at that moment that Tora decided to dig his claws into the flesh of Naruto's forearm. "Yow. Someone get this stupid cat off me." 15 minutes later, Team 7 reassembled in Sarutobi's office in Hokage Tower, where the Fire Daimyo's wife was picking up Tora. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura stood silently as they waited to receive their next assignment, while Naruto sat cross-legged on the floor, drumming his fingers against one knee in boredom. He'd had it with all these D-rank assignments. This was about the 75th time they'd been given a low-ranking mission, and as always, it was to do a menial chore that kids in America usually did on a day-to-day basis. "Ugh, this is so aggravating," he thought to himself with a yawn. "It's been so long since I've had some excitement. I'm starting to wonder if I'll ever see action again." "Well kid," said Kyuubi. "Not every ninja mission is gonna have excitement or fighting. You've just got to take what they give you until you make Chunin or Jonin, that is." "Yeah, I know. But seriously, even schoolwork back at the institute wasn't as boring as this is. I'm about to go crazy, it's so boring." "Alright," said Sarutobi, abruptly snapping Naruto's thoughts back to reality. "Let's see what we've got for your next mission." He then went over a long list of tasks that were all D-rank assignments, much to Naruto's dismay. The blonde groaned audibly, which was enough to catch Sarutobi's attention. "Is something the matter, Naruto?" "Oh," thought Kakashi with a sigh. "I was afraid he was going to do this at one point or another." "What are doing, dope?" thought Sasuke, narrowing his eyes at the blonde. "Yeah, I guess you could say that," the young X-Man said, responding to Sarutobi's question. "It's just that, all you've given us so far are these boring D-rank missions. I wish you'd give us something that's a bit more challenging, for a change. I mean, you could pay the kid down the street to do crap like this. It's so monotonous." Just as Iruka, who sat next to the Hokage, was about to berate Naruto for his somewhat arrogant tone, Sarutobi silenced him with a wave of his hand. Alright then Naruto, he said calmly. From what you've shown on your past assignments, you and your team have proven time and again that you have the capacity to handle a tougher mission. Sarutobi then looked over a C-rank assignment that he'd recently received. This will be your first C-rank mission. You will be escorting a bridge builder by the name of Tazuna to the Land of Waves, after which you will stay and protect him and his workers from any trouble that may come their way until the time their current project is completed. The Sandaime Hokage then nodded at a pair of chunin that stood by the office lighting doors, and they led in a slightly drunken man with graying hair and round-rimmed glasses. He held a sake bottle in one hand. So, this is the team that's gonna be protecting me, eh? He questioned with a bit of a chuckle. No offense, but they all look pretty pathetic, especially the one with the whiskers and the fiery-looking hair. Naruto's hair still had red dyed into the spikes. Ah well, I got a bridge that needs building, so let's go. Actually Tazuna-san, said Kakashi, I think it'd be best if we left in the morning. We'll be better prepared for the journey that way. He mentally added, plus you'll be sober then too, making it a lot less difficult for us to protect you. HMP, whatever you say, was the man's reply. The man then departed for the nearest inn to reserve a room for the night, leaving Team 7 to prep for their journey. As he left Hokage Tower, Naruto could barely contain his enthusiasm. This would be his first time outside Konohagakure. Finally, something exciting. And there's no better way to celebrate a new mission than at Ichiraku Ramen. He thought to himself as he headed for his favorite restaurant. Nearing the shop, the wondrous scent of freshly cooked ramen wafting through the air flooded his senses. Pushing aside the curtains, Naruto was surprised to see Kiba, Akamaru, Hinata, and Shino seated at the counter. Akamaru barked a greeting as he entered, which alerted the others to his presence. Yo Naruto, what's up? Said Kiba cheerfully, patting his friend on the back as he sat down next to them. Not much Kiba, he replied. Oij-sama finally gave us a mission that isn't a D rank. Sweet. What you gonna be doing? As Naruto began to explain what had transpired at Hokage Tower a few moments ago, Hinata sat silently next to Kiba, staring longingly at her crush. Ever since the academy, she'd had feelings for Naruto, and although they'd become good friends, she still felt butterflies in her stomach whenever they were together. Why is it so difficult just to talk to him? She wondered as she watched him eat his order of miso ramen. How come I can never find the words to stay when we're together? Suddenly, she felt a slight twinge of pain flare up in her head. She'd been having headaches for a few weeks now, but each one seemed to grow more intense than the previous. Naruto noticed Hinata wince in pain and put her hand to her temple. Something was wrong, she'd done that yesterday when he dropped off a package from Sandaime at the Hyuga compound. Hey, Hinata, he began, are you feeling alright? Why yes, Naruto-kun, she replied, pretending nothing was wrong. It's just a headache is all. And nothing to worry about. Maybe you should get some rest anyhow, just to be safe, Naruto suggested, raising an eyebrow skeptically. I guess you're right, she agreed remorsefully. She'd really wanted to stay and talk with him some more, but he was probably right. Kiba, Shino, and Akamaru elected to walk her home, seeing as they lived in that direction anyhow. Naruto said goodbye and told Hinata to get well soon, which caused her to blush noticeably. After they'd left, he turned back to his meal. He thought as he ate another bite of miso ramen. I wonder what's up with Hinata. It's probably none of my business, but it wouldn't hurt to keep an eye on her. Just as Naruto reached to take a sip of the tea that AM had set out for him, he heard a slight TNK sound. Looking down, he noticed that his glass had suddenly developed a minuscule, hairline crack in it, one that seemed to spider out to all dimensions of the cup. Now that's odd, he thought, wasn't a superstitious person, yet something in his gut told him that this new mission of his wasn't something he should take lightly. After he'd finished his meal and paid, Naruto trudged back home to pack for the trip and get a good night's rest. He knew that he'd have to be prepared for whatever tomorrow would hold. The following morning, Naruto woke bright and early to double-check his provisions he'd packed the previous night after donning his cyber visor and civilian attire. Everything seemed to be in place, from the first cup of instant ramen, right down to the last round of signal flares. His bizarre premonition last night had put him somewhat on edge, but he'd remembered that he made his own luck, not the other way around. Still, it didn't hurt to be cautious, especially when on an escort mission. Seeing as he was already up and ready, he headed out for the village gates and, once there, set his backpack down on a rock and proceeded to wait for the rest of his team. A slight mist hung over the village that morning, making it a bit difficult to see at first, but after a while, Naruto's eyes adjusted. Half an hour later, Sasuke showed up wearing his usual disinterested scowl, Sakura trailing faithfully behind her crush. He greeted them warmly, only to receive the usual HMP from the Uchiha. I still have no idea what she sees in him, Naruto thought as he flash cooked a cup of ramen with his plasma claws, then set about devouring it. An hour later, after he'd finished his ramen and cycled through his iPod's collection of Diana Krall songs at least once, Kakashi finally showed up with Tazuna in tow. "Well, it looks as though you three are all set," the copynin surmised. "Time to head out." "Alright." Naruto exclaimed in excitement, punching the air. "Let's roll." "Hey," Tazuna said, pointing at Naruto, "will a kid like this really be capable of handling a mission like this?" Now that got Naruto annoyed. Who was this old geezer to question his competence for a mission? He'd been on more possible A-rank missions with the X-Men than he could count on his fingers and toes. "Hey," he said sharply, staring at Tazuna with an annoyed expression. "Don't ever underestimate me, you got that? You're looking at an elite shinobi who's gone on more missions abroad than you'd even think, and the future Hokage. The name's Uzumaki Howlett Naruto, remember it?" Naruto Sakura thought silently, a vein throbbing on her forehead. Idiot Sasuke glowered. "Yeah right," replied Tazuna, taking a swig of sake. "There's no way a kid like you'd ever become Hokage." "Drrrr. Whatever, you old geezer. Think what you want, but I will become Hokage, you can count on that for sure." Deciding that further arguing would have been pointless, Naruto dropped the subject for now, and the group continued onward towards their destination. However, none of them noticed the two pairs of eyes that followed them from the trees wherever they went. Several hours later, the group came up to a bridge that spanned a small river. Upon crossing the bridge, they continued down the path towards the shore, where Tazuna had said a boat was waiting to ferry them over to the wave country. They hadn't gone a mile from the bridge when Naruto stopped suddenly. Looking to either side, he sniffed the air warily. Something scent had caught his nose a second ago, but what it was he couldn't tell. "Hey, dope, what's the holdup?" called Sasuke over his shoulder as the group continued on ahead. It's nothing," Naruto said, checking over his shoulder as he caught up with them. It was then that he noticed a puddle on the side of the road. He'd been standing a few meters from it when Sasuke had called out to him. "That's weird," he thought, taking a moment to observe his surroundings. "From the looks of the area, it hasn't rained here in a while. The road's way too dusty too. Something ain't right here." Suddenly, as if to confirm his suspicions, a cloaked figure rose menacingly out of the puddle. He wore a camouflage outfit, a tattered black cloak, a clawed gauntlet on his right hand, and a respirator that covered most of his face. The Hittite on his head had a pair of horns sprouting from the metal. In one fluid motion, the assassin whipped out a blade-covered chain, which was attached to his gauntlet, and flung it at them with all his might. There was a second assassin linked to the opposite end of the chain. The instant he landed in front of them, he flicked out with his end of the chain and lassoed it around Kakashi, restraining him completely. With a single jerk from either end, the pair shredded Kakashi into 1,000 pieces, which rained to the ground in a sickening thud. "Kakashi-sensei!" shrieked Sakura in horror. The second that she screamed, Naruto was already on the offensive, shedding his backpack as he went to increase his speed. Maizu, the second, younger assassin, noticed the blonde charging at them and swung his end of the blade chain at him. Naruto swiftly ducked under the blade and rose up to attack, plasma claws scything through the air. "Be plasma, Kamo freak!" Naruto shouted. In one swift upward stroke, he sliced clean through Maizu's respirator and carved a set of 5 smoking lines into his face. With his respirator gone, Maizu's mouth was clearly visible as he uttered an inhuman cry of pain, groping at his ruined face with his free arm. Naruto grinned in satisfaction and moved to add insult to injury, when suddenly a jolt of incredible pain traveled through his entire body, forcing to his knees. He glanced down at his left arm to see a series of hairline cuts running along his left arm, each oozing with some translucent liquid. Damn, the chain's razor blades were poisoned. He thought. "I can feel it starting to spread through my body." "Don't worry about it, Kid Kyuubi," reassured him. "My healing factor will clear it up in a sec, just hang tough." "Easy for you to say, you don't have 2 incredibly pissed off mercenaries breathing down your neck at the moment." "Aye, you little brat," roared Maizu, clutching his ruined face as he swung his chain. Gozu, coming to the aid of his injured brother, flicked out his length of the chain as well. It was at that moment that Sasuke sprang into action, literally. He leapt to one side and flung a shuriken at an open link in the chains. All his shuriken jutsu training as a kid paid off as the throwing star found its mark, fastening the chain securely to a nearby tree trunk. A well-placed kunai knife ensured its stability a second later. "Damn." Gozu swore, struggling to free his arm. "It won't budge." Sasuke grinned in satisfaction and flickered away, only to reappear standing atop both assassins' trapped arms. In one swift motion, the Uchiha dropped to grab onto the brothers' gloves and lashed out with both feet simultaneously, nailing both of them in the Adam's apple. The 2 assassins staggered back, stunned from the blow. Upon quickly recovering, their chains discharged from the gauntlets, freeing them up to launch a 2-pronged attack on Tazuna. Naruto attempted to stand and stop them, but he was in no condition to fight until Kyuubi's healing factor had done its job. Suddenly, a blur of motion caught his eye. A moment later, he saw Sasuke appear in front of Tazuna and Sakura, arms out at either side to protect them. Just as Mizu was about to gut him, Kakashi suddenly appeared out of thin air, Gozu hanging limply under his left arm, and clotheslined the young assassin. Within seconds, he'd wrapped his arm around the younger brother's windpipe and twisted, snapping his neck like a toothpick. Crack. Mizu's body maintained its hang time for a moment and then slumped lifelessly in the Jonin's grasp, dead as a doornail. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura exclaimed in relief at seeing their sensei alive. Hey gang, sorry to scare you for a second there, grinned the copy nin sheepishly. Damn, he's fast. Naruto though as he looked over to where they'd seen Kakashi perish. A pile of hacked up lumber had taken the place of their sensei's supposed remains. He'd already performed Kawarimi in half the time we'd taken to blink. I doubt even Quicksilver could have reacted that fast. Good job you guys, Kakashi approved as he set the two assassins down underneath a nearby tree. Sakura, you did good, protecting Tazuna like that. Sasuke, Naruto, you both handled the situation smoothly. Thanks Kakashi-sensei, Naruto replied, shakily rising to his feet. You're in the green, Kid-Kyubi said, having finished healing him. There's still some poison around the wound's opening, but it's nothing you can't cauterize with your claws. Swell, Naruto returned, before glancing sideways at Sasuke. Man, would he have to show me up like that? I didn't need his help. Well, now that the crisis at hand is over you've got a lot of explaining to do, Tazuna-san, said Kakashi, turning to face the bridge builder. These jokers who attacked us were Chunin from Kirigakure, who specialized in berserker-like assaults. When you hired us, you asked for standard protection against highwaymen and bandits. You never said that there were ninja looking for you, hunting you down. If we knew this, it would have been a B rank mission or higher, and we would have staffed and charged accordingly. We were only supposed to protect you until your bridge was finished, not field attacks from enemy ninja. Apparently, you have your reasons for lying to us, but it is still unacceptable. We are far beyond the scope of our mission at this point. Kakashi-sensei, this is way too advanced for us as genin, Sakura reasoned. We should go back to the village and get Naruto's hand checked out. Don't worry about me Sakura-chan, Naruto told her. He materialized his plasma claws on his right hand and swiftly pushed them into the spot where he'd first been cut. The intense energy burned into the wound, both cauterizing it and neutralizing the remaining poison. It hurt like hell, but Naruto fought back his urge to roar in pain, knowing that he'd dealt with worse in the past. Upon this wound, he proclaimed, I vow never to be a burden to the mission from here on out. And I'll never have to be saved by Sasuke team ever again, believe it. Naruto. What are you doing? Sakura exclaimed. It's okay, he reassured her. My healing factor already took care of the poison, I'm just sealing the wound so it won't get infected. Sakura was silent for a moment and then nodded in approval. Naruto then took a length of gauze from his pack and began to wrap up his hand. Tazuna-san, he said, having finished bandaging his hand, you may have lied to us, but I aim to finish this mission, no matter what. It takes a lot more than a couple of clowns in camo PJs to scare me off. The rest of the group regarded Naruto with silent awe in that moment. He'd just come inches from death, yet he still chose to continue. Thought Kakashi. He mentioned a healing factor, yet so far all we've seen of his mutation are his plasma claws. Could his healing powers be a result of his unity with the Kyuubi? Deciding it would be best to save this thought until another time, the copy nin sighed and turned to face Sakura and Sasuke. Well, Naruto notwithstanding, what do you two think? I'm with the dope on this one, Sasuke replied calmly, much to everyone's surprise. If the enemies we'll have to face later on are anything like these weaklings, we can beat them easily. And what about you Sakura? Well, the pink-haired Kunoichi paused for a moment. Naruto seems to be okay, and if you and Sasuke think we can handle it. Alright, I guess it's settled. We'll continue the mission as planned. With that, Kakashi hid the bodies of the demon brothers, Naruto retrieved his backpack, and the group resumed their trek towards the coast. Just as Tazuna made to follow them, he felt Kakashi's hand on his shoulder. Don't think you're off the hook just yet, the Jonin whispered. We'll talk about your deception later. After that, Tazuna didn't hear a word from Kakashi the rest of the journey. Later that night, when they had made it to their designated campsite near the beach, Kakashi decided to ask Naruto a question about his days with the X-Men. So, Naruto, he began, Sandaime-sama tells me that you were made a member of the X-Men's field team when you were 11. Care to share what life with the X-Men is like? Well, it's a lot different from the academy and the village, I can tell you that much, replied Naruto in between bites of instant ramen. The institute's main building is like any typical American prep school. The classes are mainly the same too, English, math, science, history, drama, PE and some other classes that are a lot different. Then there's the sub-basement, that's where the students who want to become X-Men train in the danger room and stuff like that. But, our missions are probably a lot different from what ninja do. How so? asked Sakura, gaining interest as the blonde spoke. Naruto smiled, thinking back to some of the missions he'd been a part of with the X-Men. I can tell you guys, they're a blast. I've been on a lot of really diverse missions in the past, ranging from VIP protection and peacekeeping to hostage rescues and all-out battles in the most unlikely of places. Usually I got assigned to stuff like crowd controller search and rescues, but then there were times when I got to be right in the middle of the action, duking it out with some of the worst villains in the world. Heck, I even got to work with SHIELD from time to time. Now granted, Dad wanted me to be safe and not do anything stupid, but that never really happened. But it wasn't always easy, I can tell you that. Sometimes it felt as though I was gonna collapse after certain missions. At this, Team 7 couldn't help but look at him in awe. Even Kakashi and Sasuke were impressed. So basically, Kakashi said, jerking his thumb at Sasuke and Sakura, while these two were learning the basics of chakra-enhanced seals, you were being assigned to missions that we'd have reserved for Chunin and Jonin. I guess so, the blonde shrugged nonchalantly, taking another bite of ramen. Wow, Sakura marveled. Well, that's interesting, mused Sasuke as he digested what Naruto had told him, along with his food. He had considered asking him more, but he decided against it. Just as he was about to take another bite of his meal, his eyes began to itch again. Arg. Damn it. Why does this keep happening? He thought as he rubbed at his eyes furiously. Ever since the bell test, Sasuke had been experiencing frequent headaches, along with a bizarre irritation in the backs of his eyes. At first he thought it was just his Sharingan developing, but the symptoms had begun to appear on a regular basis. Hey, Sasuke-kun, are you okay? Sakura asked him, a hint of concern in her voice. I'm fine, Sakura-chan, he replied, annoyed at his vulnerability. My eyes just itch is all. Naruto, who was seated to Sakura's right, had also noticed Sasuke's irritation. He'd seen Sasuke rub at his eyes like that a few days ago, but this time was different somehow, more intense. He thought, poking at a glowing ember with his claws. First Hinata's headaches and now Sasuke's itchy eyes. What could be going on here? Oh, I almost forgot. Sakura exclaimed, a look of realization on her face as she bent to rummage through her backpack for something. Her expression changed to one of satisfaction as she produced a small bottle, complete with a dropper attachment at the top. I picked up these eye drops for you last night, Sasuke-kun. I hope they help with the itching. Sasuke didn't know how to react at first, but after a moment, he took the bottle from her and carefully applied a drop of the solution to each of his eyes. After a couple of blinks, he noticed that the itching had all but stopped completely. In a few minutes, it would probably even be gone. Sasuke turned and looked at Sakura with an intrigued look. Up until now, he'd only seen her as just another fangirl, but now she seemed different. She seemed to genuinely care about him, instead of just chase after him haphazardly like the others, simply because he was popular. Arigato, Sakura-chan, he said finally, pocketing the eye drops. Kakashi watched all of this unfold from his seat on the log parallel to the kids with a feeling of nostalgia tugging at the back of his mind. Seeing the way that Sakura and Sasuke acted together reminded him of the old days, of the friends he'd made so long ago. Especially a certain pair that would always remain a part of him. It's like looking into a mirror, thought the silver-haired Jonin, chuckling mentally as Sasuke resumed his tense composure. Well, almost. He shifted his gaze upwards, watching the fire's smoke as it drifted lazily into the endless sky of stars above them. I still can't tell what the future holds, even with this eye. But, I guess that's one of life's greatest mysteries, not knowing. Obito. The next morning, the group awoke early and set out for a small alcove near the far side of the beach. There they met a friend of Tezuna's who had offered to take them back over to the land of waves in his boat. A thick fog had rolled in that morning, making it nearly impossible for the group to see for about 10 feet in front of them. For about 2/4 of the trip they used the craft's outboard motor and then shut it off halfway and switched to using a conventional wooden oar. After an hour and a half of such travel, they were finally able to see the bridge. Even though it was far from finished, it was still very impressive. When Sakura asked why they were being so sneaky, Kakashi turned to Tezuna. Alright Tezuna-san, he said firmly. Why did you deceive us back there? You must have had a good reason. Either you tell us now, or I'll personally see to it that this mission ends once we reach the land of waves. Tezuna was silent for a moment, then he adjusted his glasses along the bridge of his nose and sighed. I have no choice but to tell you. No, I want you to know the truth. It's just as you said, this is beyond the scope of the original mission. The one who seeks my life is a very short man, who casts a very long and deadly shadow. I'm sure you've heard his name before, the shipping magnate, Gatu. Gatu? Kakashi interjected. Of Gatu Transport Incorporated. He's a well-known and respected businessman. Yes, that's all true indeed, Tezuna continued. But, below the surface of his corporation, with the same ruthlessness he uses in his business practices, he runs an underworld crime ring that deals in drug trafficking and illegal contraband. He's known to employ both ninja and yakuza to take care of any wet work he needs done. Exactly 1 year ago, when he first laid his eyes on the land of waves, he used his vast wealth to usurp total control of our transport and shipping. Anyone who opposed him or stood in his way simply disappeared. In an island nation such as our own, whoever controls the sea controls everything. But there is one thing that Gatu truly fears, and that is the bridge. Once it is completed, it will join us to the mainland and finally break his control over us. So that's it, Sakura said after he'd finished. Since you're this bridge's architect and oversee its construction, you're this guy's only real threat to controlling this island. That means that those two jokers we fought yesterday were hired by Gatu as well, Sasuke surmised grimly. So if you knew how dangerous this was, why didn't you tell us this back when you first asked for the mission? Kakashi asked sternly. Because, the land of waves is a small and impoverished nation, Tazuna said sadly. Heck, even our nobles have little money. The common people, who are building this bridge, can't pay for an A or B ranked mission, as it is far too expensive. DRRR Naruto growled in his mind, grinding his teeth angrily. He'd been listening to Tazuna's story while perched near the bow of the boat, all of his senses open and scanning for any threats as they went. However, the more he heard about Gatu's cruelty and the plight of the land of waves, the angrier he became. It's people like this Gatu guy and the Kingpin that really make me want to forget Xavier Oij-sama's lectures on human mutant equality. This jerk is willing to oppress innocent people, just so he can get richer. If I ever run into this guy. Shaking off his rage, Naruto tapped Kakashi on the shoulder. Kakashi-sensei, even if Tazuna-san deceived us to get this mission, I really think we should go ahead with the original mission, he said adamantly. If we've gotten this far, we should at least see this through to the end. That, and I can't stand to sit by and let this Gatu guy run roughshod over these people like this. It's just not right. Yes, Naruto, it's not right, agreed Kakashi calmly. And while I agree with your suggestion, keep in mind what our mission is here, as well as how severe it may become. Our next opponents won't be Chunin, like those two from yesterday, they'll most likely be Jonin, highly skilled and trained to kill at the drop of a hat. Understood? Naruto nodded in compliance. Yes, Kakashi-sensei. I understand completely. 15 minutes later, their boat neared the end of the bridge and entered a long and dark tunnel. Once inside, Naruto ignited his plasma claws in order to help their guide better navigate the catacombs. Soon they reached the exit and were greeted with a beautiful blue sky, in sharp contrast to the gloomy mist on the opposite end of the tunnel. After they had landed at one of the nearby docks, they thanked their guide and set out for Tazuna's house, which was located clear on the other side of a dense forest. As they walked through the quiet forest, Naruto kept his senses wide open, sniffing the air every once in a while. 10 minutes later, as the group neared a small lake, he caught a human sent off to his right and held up his hand, signaling everyone else to halt. The gleaming, serrated hunting dagger popped out from a hidden compartment in his jacket sleeve. With a flick of his wrist, he sent it flying into the brush, a satisfying thunk. Following a fraction of a second later. Suddenly, Naruto's ears picked up the sound of air being displaced, like a vacuum. At the same time, he noticed that the human scent he'd smelled a second earlier had been replaced with that of an animal. Walking over to the spot where his dagger had landed and parting the bushes, Naruto was greeted by the sight of a frightened trembling. Baka! Sakura yelled as she ran over and forcefully shoved him aside. You acted up over a bunny rabbit of all things. She bent down and picked up the shaking rabbit, rocking it back and forth as she cradled it in her arms to calm it down. Luckily for both Naruto and the rabbit, the knife had embedded itself in a tree, just inches above the poor creature's head. Quit trying to freak me out, you damn kid. Tazuna swore, sweat running down his neck like a river. Dope, thought Sasuke. Remind me why he's a member of the X-Men for Kami's sake. Ugh, Naruto thought, rolling his eyes. He retrieved his dagger and returned it to his sheath. He was about to stand up when the rabbit caught his eye again. Its coat was pure white. Hold up. That's a snow rabbit from the north, like the ones up in Alaska. Their coats only turn white in the winter months, when the days are shorter and there's less light out. So why is this thing white when, just then, he noticed Kakashi staring at the rabbit as well. It was in that moment that it clicked. Someone had raised this rabbit indoors and away from the light so that it could be used for a kawarimi. So, they're already here, he thought, scanning the area. All of a sudden, a dense, ominous blanket of mist rolled into the area. Naruto began reflexively curling and uncurling his hands, wanting to bring his plasma claws to bear, but holding off until the real enemy was in sight. Suddenly, a huge sword came flying at them from out of the trees. Hit the dirt. He yelled as he ducked to avoid the massive bladed projectile. The rest of group followed suit and leapt out of the sword's path. It passed harmlessly over their heads and embedded itself into the trunk of a nearby tree. After a moment of silence, the blade's apparent owner flickered into existence, standing on its cumbersome hilt with his back to them. He was a dark, foreboding figure, garbed in a pair of purple pinstripe slacks, cow print cloth braces and leg warmers, and standard shinobi sandals. His mouth was bandaged from the bridge of his nose all the way down to his shoulders, a Kirigakure no Sato hit-eye tied around his forehead. It was then that Naruto recognized him. He'd seen his photo in the Konohagakure bingo book when he'd downloaded the digital version into Cerebra's files. Only Nukenin from the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist wielded a Kubikiri Hacho, decapitating knife, of that size. Well, preened Zabuza Mamachi, demon of the mist, from his perch atop his blade. What do we have here? Now, ain't this a surprise, laughed Zabuza Mamachi as he stared down at Team 7 and Tazuna from atop his sword. Naruto clenched his fists anxiously as the Nukenin spoke. Behind his bandages, his voice was gruff and evil, almost like that of Sabretooth. Who'd have thought I'd find you here, Hatake Kakashi? Or should I call you by your alias, Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye? Did I get that right? What? The Sharingan? Thought Sasuke in surprise. He whipped his head around to stare at Kakashi intently. How could he? HMPH, responded Kakashi nonchalantly. And, you must be Mamachi Zabuza, the demon of the hidden mist. S-Class, Nukenin. Graduated from the Kirigakure no Sato Shinobi Academy by slaying his entire class, despite his lack of ninja training. Ex-member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Blood Mist and leader of Kirigakure's assassination squad before being exiled following his failed coup against the Mizukage. Impressive, replied Zabuza. This is not good, Naruto thought, a sudden feeling of unease washing over him. Alright, enough small talk, Kakashi, the Nukenin growled, kneeling down to clasp the hilt of his blade. Let's not make this any bloodier than it needs to be. Hand over the old man and I'll spare you and your pathetic excuse for a team. Now, you know that I can't do that, Zabuza, Kakashi rebutted dryly as he slowly lifted his hit-eye, revealing his left eye, which was shut in intense concentration like his right. After a moment, which seemed like an eternity, he opened his eyes, revealing a red pupil in his left, its iris hemmed with 3 separate tones. Everyone, he said to the group over his shoulder, Manji battle formation. Protect Tazuna, and don't interfere. All 3 of them nodded in acknowledgement and got into position around Tazuna. Naruto to his left, ready to ignite his plasma claws, Sakura to his right, a kunai at the ready, and Sasuke out in front, his hand shadowing his ninja holster. How does Kakashi have the Sharingan? Sasuke thought, still staring at Kakashi's left eye in astonishment. Sharingan is a rare trait that only manifests itself in a few members of the Uchiha clan, my clan. Looks like I get to see the Sharingan in action, Zabuza said bluntly, a grin barely visible beneath his bandages. This is an honor. I have the pleasure of being the one who slew the man who copied 1,000 jutsu. Kakashi, the copy ninja. With that, Zabuza grabbed hold of his sword and kicked off of the tree, ripping the blade free in the process. To the amazement of Naruto and his friends, he landed on the top of the water and stood there, one hand at mouth level and the other raised above his head, both forming a ninjutsu seal. Tiny droplets of water swirled around him like a small hurricane. He's building up a huge amount of chakra, Kakashi observed silently, and channeling it into the water. This could be trouble. Ninpu. Kirigakure no Jutsu, ninja art. Hidden mist jutsu, said Zabuza menacingly. In a matter of seconds, the mist that blanketed the area became thicker than it was before, causing Zabuza to vanish without a trace. This is not good, Kakashi said as the mist enveloped them. Zabuza is a master of the silent kill, a deadly technique that takes place without warning. He looked over his shoulder at his team. Don't let your guard down, not even for a second. If you do, you'll be dead before you know it. Naruto nodded, dropped into a low Hungar serpent stance, and unsheathed his plasma claws, his right arm out in front of him, parallel with his right leg, while his left hand guarded his face. His eyes flicked back and forth from his teammates to the foreboding mist that surrounded them. The silence in and of itself had become overwhelming. So much bloodlust, he thought as he scanned the mist warily, his heart pounding away in his chest like a jackhammer. It's almost as powerful as Sabretooth's. I've fought cyborgs, alien invaders, mutant hunting sentinels, and psychotic super criminals. So, why is it that this one guy's so terrifying? 8 points, came Zabuza's voice from somewhere in the mist, causing the hackles on the back of Naruto's neck to stand on end. Larynx, spinal column, lungs, liver. Where is that coming from? Sakura wondered aloud, terror growing in her voice. It's like we're fighting the mist itself. He could be anywhere. Jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart, the Nukenin finished. So many choices. Which vital, vulnerable spot shall I choose? This is crazy, thought Sasuke in a panic, sweat beating down his neck, his eyes shifting warily from right to left. It feels as though one small breath, one twitch of the eye, and it'll all be over. If it goes on like this, I'll go insane. In his mind's eye, Sasuke had a chilling image of himself being decapitated mid-blink. It was so frighteningly realistic he had to force himself to push the vision out of his head and focus on front of him. Kakashi had triggered a massive release of his own chakra, so intense that Sasuke could actually feel it bearing down on him. The clash of two jonin, both intent on killing one another. I've never felt anything so chilling. Not since that night. That thought prompted another vision, only this wasn't a figment of his imagination, but a memory long since repressed. An avenue littered with bodies and horrendous gore, blood trickling steadily through the crevices in the pavement, a dark figure crouched atop a telephone pole silhouetted by the moon, its eyes burning a hellish shade of red, the unearthly silence of the night seeping into the marrow of his bones. No. Sasuke cried out in his mind. He pulled a kunai free from his ningu holster and raised it over his abdomen. I can't take this, I'd rather. Sasuke. Kakashi barked, startling him. Calm down. I'll protect all of you with my life. I will not allow my comrades to die, trust me on that. Somehow, his words did calm Sasuke, reassuring him of their safety. I wouldn't be so sure about that, retorted Zabuza smugly. Suddenly, he materialized in the center of the group's formation, sword at the ready. It's over. Without warning, Naruto's instincts took over and he shifted his stance, whirling around to slash at Zabuza with a powerful right stroke. His attack caught Zabuza by surprise, forcing him to hastily block Naruto's claws with his sword. The energy blades left 5 smoking marks that gored along the width of the Kubikiri Hacho. What the hell are those things? Zabuza wondered as he backpedaled to avoid another attack. Seeing the opening Naruto had inadvertently given him, Kakashi rushed Nukenin and plunged a kunai into his side. Much to his surprise, it wasn't blood that flowed from the wound, but water. A fraction of a second later, Zabuza collapsed into a puddle of water at his feet. Before Kakashi could react, another Zabuza appeared behind him and swung his sword with all his might, effectively cleaving the copy nin in two. However, it was his turn to be surprised, as the Kakashi he struck burst into a spray of water as well. It can't be, thought Zabuza. Even through the mist, he saw through my jutsu and copied it in an instant. Don't move, threatened Kakashi's voice from behind him. Zabuza flinched at the sound and felt something sharp press against his throat. A razor-edged kunai, held by none other than Kakashi himself. Now it's over. Heh, Zabuza chuckled darkly. Finished. You really have no idea. Your technique is but a mere crass imitation. I'll never be defeated by a mere copycat ninja like you. You're full of surprises though, I'll give you that. You'd already copied my Mizubushin no Jutsu, water clone jutsu, when you made your little speech, hiding in the mist to analyze my technique. Nice try. But I'm not that easy to fool, said the true Zabuza from behind him. Kakashi barely had time to react as the Nukenin swung his massive blade, his clone popping into a spray of water at the same moment. He ducked under the blade, which caused it to miss him, its momentum forcing it into the ground. Kakashi rose to attempt and attack again, only to be met with a solid and powerful kick that sent him flying off into the lake. Zabuza took hold of his sword and ran to intercept Kakashi mid-flight, wrenching it out of the ground in the process. He was halfway to the lake when he spotted a number of caltrops scattered around in front of him and skirted around them. Makabishi spikes. Trying to slow me down, eh? Foolish. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto yelled as their sensei hit the water. Crap, not only is this guy an expert assassin, but his strength is insane too. I can't believe Kakashi-sensei got kicked through the air like that, thought Sakura, fright taking a stronger hold in her mind. Ah! Gasped Kakashi as he resurfaced from beneath the water. However, something wasn't right. This isn't normal water, he observed. It's dense, heavy. That's the idea, fool, Zabuza mocked as he flickered into view behind Kakashi, weaving hand seals at incredible speeds. Suru no Jutsu, water prison jutsu. Immediately, the water around Kakashi surged upward on either side of him, joining together over his head to form a bubble-like prison. Okay, reflected Kakashi. Escaping to the water, big mistake. This prison is made of water, but it's as strong as steel, explained Zabuza haughtily. Hard to fight when you can't move, isn't it? So much of the great Kakashi Hatake. I'll finish you off later, but your little friends have to be eliminated. The Nukenin made one-handed ram seal, and a new Mizubushin materialized from the water, striding towards Team 7 and Tazuna with a murderous look in its eyes. You think that wearing a Hittite makes you a ninja? The clone said. When you've hovered between life and death so many times that it ceases to faze you, then you may be called a ninja. When you've become so deadly that your profile is listed in my bingo book, then you may have earned the title ninja. But, to call upstarts like you ninja is a joke. Before their very eyes, the clone vanished into the mist. Then, in an instant, it reappeared in front of Naruto and delivered a powerful kick to his head that sent him flying backwards, knocking his hit eye clean off in the process. "You're just brats," the clone hissed, stepping on the headband as it did. "Everyone," Kakashi yelled at his team, his voice slightly distorted from behind the wall of water, "take Tazuna and run. He's using all of his power to keep me in this prison, so he can only engage you with his Mizubushin, but it can't stray far from its real body. If you leave here, he can't follow you, now run." "Run away," no, mused Sasuke, trying to overcome his growing sense of paranoia that became unthinkable the moment you got caught. "It doesn't matter how far we go, he'll wipe us out. In the end, if we're on our own, we're done for. Our only chance of survival is to rescue you." Acting on sheer impulse, Sasuke ran at the clone head-on, cutting loose with a volley of shuriken as he went. The Zabuza Bushin whipped out its sword and easily deflected the shuriken, as though they were nothing but a swarm of gnats. It was then that it noticed a chakra signature directly above it and looked up just in time to see Sasuke bearing down on it, a kunai poised high over his head. The blow never connected, however, as the clone lashed out with its right hand and had Sasuke by the throat in the time it took him to blink. "Heh, pathetic," the Bushin sneered arrogantly. With that, he effortlessly tossed Sasuke aside like a sack of flour, sending him crashing into the ground in front of Team 7 and Tazuna. "Sasuke-kun, no!" screamed Sakura in horror, rushing to her crush's side. By this time, Naruto had managed to shake off the effects of the Bushin's kick and sat up in time to see Sasuke get sent flying. "That idiot," he thought. What was he thinking? "There's no way we can take him one-on-one like that. We've got to arg." A sudden wave of pain shot through his left arm as he tried to push himself to his feet. He looked down at his bandaged hand, the gauze serving as a reminder of his oath that he'd made yesterday. "That's right, I made a promise. And if we want to get through this guy, we've got to quit acting like a bunch of kids and start thinking like a team instead." First things first though, all of a sudden, Naruto charged a Mizubushin with incredible speed, bellowing in rage as he went. "Ahhh. Naruto, what the heck are you doing?" yelled Sakura in disbelief, pulling at her hair in response to the tension. Beside her, Sasuke looked on in confusion. Just what was Naruto going? "What? Naruto, no," warned Kakashi from his position inside the water prison. "Heh, little fool," scoffed the clone haughtily. As soon as the young X-Man reached him, Zabuza sent him flying backwards with another, crippling kick. He flew for several feet before landing and skidding to a stop directly in front of Sakura. "What do you think charging at him by yourself, Baka?" she asked as she knelt down to his level. "We're only genin, we don't have a chance against a jonin, and even Sasuke couldn't touch him. What did you think you'd accomplished by that?" At that moment, Naruto slowly began to stand, wincing in obvious pain. It was then that Sakura noticed something in his left hand that wasn't there a second ago, his hit eye that Zabuza had knocked off. The headband. She thought, a bit perplexed. That's what he wanted. "Hey you," said Naruto, cracking his neck audibly as he got to his feet, the freak with no eyebrows. "Put this in your damn bingo book, bub. The shinobi who will become Hokage of Konohagakure no Sado, he never backs down." Naruto emphasized this by cinching on his hit eye tightly. "His name's Naruto Uzumaki Howlett and he's the best at what he does." "Heh, and I thought he was all talk," Tazuna observed from his position behind Sakura and Sasuke. "This kid's got some guts after all." "Alright Sasuke, listen up," said Naruto, flicking out his plasma claws as he spoke. "I've got a plan for how we can beat this guy." "Oh, now he's got a plan," thought the Uchiha sarcastically. "Okay, let's hear it." Out on the surface of the lake, Zabuza watched them as Naruto explained his plan, none of which he or his clone could hear at such a distance. "That little brat with the claws is a persistent one," he thought as he observed them silently. "Okay gang," said Naruto as he finished explaining his plan and turned back to face his opponents. He then slammed his fist against his opposing hand and activated his clothes' unstable molecules, changing them into his XSE uniform as he had during the bell test. "Now, let's go wild." "Heh," smirked Zabuza, pretty big talk from such a little man. "What are you going? I told you to run." Kakashi shouted at them desperately. "This fight was over the moment I got caught, now take off. Your mission isn't to prove how brave you are, it's to save Tazuna." Tazuna looked at the kids in front of him for a moment. All three of them were putting their lives on the line for him, even after he'd gotten them into this mess in the first place. Somehow, he knew that these kids would win no matter what. Sensing his gaze, Naruto and Sasuke looked back at him over their shoulders, wondering what he would say. "This all happened because of me," said the bridge builder after a moment, "because of my desire to live, but I won't let that stand in your way. Forget about me, do what you have to do to save your sensei." Naruto nodded in compliance and turned back to face his opponent. "Alright, you ready Sasuke?" "Ready when you are, dope," responded the Uchiha heir. At that moment, Zabuza began laughing maniacally and uncontrollably, which caught their attention. "You really haven't learned anything, have you?" he finally asked, a mocking tone in his voice. "Still playing your little game, pretending to be ninja." All of a sudden, the Zabuza Bushin flickered into view in front of Sasuke and elbowed him hard in the stomach, causing him to double over in pain. It then slammed the back of its forearm into the center of Sasuke's back, sending him crashing face first into the ground. "Heh, you're a joke," it scoffed, kicking the Uchiha air in the ribs as it took hold of its sword to finish him off. "Hold it right there," Naruto yelled, forming a hand seal with his clawed hands. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Instantaneously, 15 shadow clones appeared and tackled the Zabuza Bushin, forcing it to focus on him instead of Sasuke. Once Sasuke was safe, Naruto and his clones dog-piled the Mizu Bushin, attempting to bury it under a mass of bodies. But this clone was no pushover. With an angry roar and a swing of its massive sword, it hurled the clones and Naruto through the air with incredible force, causing all of the Kage Bushin to dispel. Naruto managed to right himself midair and produced a series of folded blades from his backpack. "Yo team, heads up," he shouted, landing in a crouch and tossing the blades at Sasuke, who caught them one-handed. Sasuke grinned at Naruto in approval and unfolded the blades in the blink of an eye, causing them to form a massive Fuma shuriken. He brought the shuriken's blades to eye level and glared over them at the Nukenin. "Akike's shuriken, Fuusha no Kage, Demon Wind shuriken, Windmill of Shadows," he hissed ominously. He vanished for a second, then flickered into view high above his team and launched the shuriken at the Bushin with all his might. However, just before it struck the clone, it veered around it and shot straight for the real Zabuza. "Heh, so you bypassed the Bushin and aimed for my real body," smirked Zabuza. "Smart, but not smart enough." With his free hand, he reached out, plucked the whirling metallic fan out of the air, spinning it mockingly around his index and middle fingers. Sadly, his moment of triumph didn't last long, as he noticed a second shuriken closing in on him with surprising speed. "Clever, using the Kage Shuriken no Jutsu, Shadow Shuriken Jutsu, to deceive me." Just as the spinning projectile neared him, Zabuza jumped in place, allowing the shuriken to pass harmlessly beneath him. "Ha! You brats will never get the best of me, especially with a shurikwat." Much to the surprise of both Zabuza and Kakashi, the shuriken disappeared in a puff of smoke a few yards away from him, revealing Naruto in its place, still flying backwards with all 10 of his claws leveled at Nukenin. "Take this," proclaimed the young X-Man, Gatling Claw. With that idiom as his opponent's only warning, Naruto loosed a huge barrage of plasma claws at Zabuza, one after another in rapid succession, until there were roughly 40 of them flying his way. Just as the glowing blades were almost upon him, Zabuza yanked his arm free of the water prison that held Kakashi and leapt aside to avoid them, his Bushin dispelling as he did so. 2 of the claws found their mark, however. One carved a long, jagged groove along the metal of his hit eye, the other sliced a deep cut underneath his right eye that would most likely scar. "I'll destroy you." The Nukenin roared as he charged Naruto, the shuriken he had caught moments ago spinning like a miniature helicopter in his left hand. Only moments away from killing the blonde, Zabuza found his weapon stopped short by a very wet and very angry Kakashi. His sensei's intervention bought Naruto enough time to teleport back to shore in a burst of inky black smoke. Bamf. "Alright," Naruto shouted excitedly as he reappeared next to Sasuke. "I think we just reinvented my dad's fastball special, Konoha style." "Not bad dope," replied Sasuke with a smirk, "not bad at all." "Nicely done you two," said Kakashi as he wrenched the shuriken free from Zabuza's grasp and tossed it away. "That was an excellent plan." Cursing himself for being so careless as to set Kakashi free, Zabuza leapt back a ways and began to weave an intricate and complex series of hand seal. Kakashi did the same, his hands moving at the same blinding speed, yet never failing to perform the correct seal, as his opponent continued formulating his jutsu. After 50-some hand seals, both Jonin finished on the bird seal, and immediately, the water around them began to foam and churn violently. On the shore, Team 7 and Tazuna looked on in awe as a large dragon made of water appeared behind both combatants. Suiton. Suryudan no Jutsu, Water Style. Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu. They both shouted, their creations rushing at one another viciously. In an incredible explosion of water, both dragons collided with each other and dispersed, showering the surrounding area in a refreshing drizzle. "Wow, so many hand seals," and he mirrored them all, perfectly, mused Naruto in amazement. "So this is the power of the Sharingan." Growing even more enraged at the ease at which Kakashi was able to mimic his jutsu, Zabuza rushed to copy Nin and brought his sword down on him, only to have it blocked by his opponent's kunai. Both of them glared at one another for a moment, each straining behind their blades to gain the upper hand. Then they pushed off their opponent's blade and backed off a distance, circling each other like two lions. It was then that Zabuza saw it. When he stopped, Kakashi also stopped. When he attempted to use his Kirigakure no jutsu, so did Kakashi. My movements, he realized as he slowly formed another seal, watching Kakashi do the same. It's as if he knows what I'm going to do next. Kakashi said, finishing his opponent's secret thoughts. What? Thought Zabuza in surprise. Was he reading his mind as well? Perplexed, the Nukenin formed another seal. Again, Kakashi did the same thing at the same time. He looks at me with that eye. It makes you furious, doesn't it? Mocked the silver-haired Jonin. All you're going is copying me like a monkey. You can't beat me with cheap tricks. Growled both Jonin in unison. I'll crush you. Unable to think clearly through his anger, Zabuza began going through a series of seals for one of his more potent water jutsu. Halfway through the formula, he looked up at Kakashi to see him doing the same, only there was something different this time. Standing directly behind the copy nin was. That's me. He exclaimed mentally as he saw what appeared to be himself standing behind Kakashi. But how is it a genjutsu? As he stood there, unmoving and dumbfounded, Kakashi continued performing the seals for the jutsu Zabuza had begun, the tome of his Sharingan eye spinning wildly. The effect was nigh hypnotic, he couldn't break the copy nin's gaze. Suiton. Daibakufu no jutsu, water style. Great waterfall jutsu. Kakashi shouted, completing the jutsu. In the air before him, a swirling vortex formed, about the size of a small elephant. Without warning, it shot out with incredible speed, bearing down on a very surprised Zabuza. What? Impossible. Protested the Nukenin, seconds before he was struck by the wall of water. It carried him for half a mile before slamming him into a sturdy tree. The effects of the jutsu had not only sent Zabuza reeling, but also submerged the surrounding area around the 2 and 5 feet of water. As the water level began to recede a moment later, Zabuza attempted to stand, coughing as he did so. Adding to his already full day of surprises, 5 kunai stuck him in the chest, knocking him back against the tree. It was then that he noticed that Kakashi had teleported to a branch above him, another kunai at the ready. How? Coughed Zabuza. Can you see into the future? Yes, replied Kakashi coolly. You're going to die. Suddenly, before Kakashi could say another word, a pair of senbon shot out of trees and buried themselves into the back of Zabuza's neck. Amazed and caught off guard, Kakashi and Team 7 turned to where the needles had originated from. They were greeted by the sight of what appeared to be a young ninja standing on a nearby tree branch, garbed in a blue and green guy and sea green pants, his face hidden behind a mask that bore the same symbol as Zabuza's hit eye. You were right, he said behind his mask. He did die. Intrigued, Kakashi leapt down from his perch and placed his fingers on the side of Zabuza's neck. There was no pulse whatsoever. He really is dead. Thank you very much, said the ninja with a deep bow. I have been trailing Zabuza for weeks, waiting for an opportune moment to strike and kill him. That mask, said Naruto thoughtfully, willing his costume back to its civilian form. If memory serves, that makes you a hunter nin from Kirigakure no Sado, right? Your memory serves you well, replied the hunter nin gently, a hint of a smile in his voice. Thought Kakashi in curiosity. From his height and voice, he's about the same age as Naruto and the others. How is it that a 13-year-old was able to become a member of the Kirigakure no Sado assassination corps? He's no ordinary kid. As everyone continued to stare at the hunter nin silently, Sasuke gave the newcomer a sidelong glare. Something about this ninja wasn't quite right. Ignoring Sasuke's gaze altogether, the masked ninja silently vanished in an icy cold whirlwind of leaves and reappeared next to Zabuza's body. With a show of surprising strength for his small stature, he hefted the Nukenin's unmoving frame over his shoulder and turned to leave. Thank you again for your assistance, he said. I must leave now to properly dispose of this corpse. Excuse me. And with that, the mysterious ninja and Zabuza's body disappeared from sight. Ryu, Kakashi sighed, moving his hit eye back to its original spot over his eye. I'm glad that's over. Now that was interesting, said Tazuna as the fog began to clear. Never expected that to happen. I don't think anyone did, replied Sakura. Anyhow, good job you three, Kakashi beamed at his students. You did an exceptional job in both engaging the enemy and protecting Tazuna. That was an impressive display of teamwork. Now that our unexpected guest is no longer with us, we should be on our way. With that, the copy nin yawned and promptly collapsed on the forest floor. Kakashi-sensei! Exclaimed the kids as they rushed to their teacher's side. Give me some room, Sakura told the boys as she looked over her sensei's vitals. As a kunoichi, she had not yet learned any medical ninjutsu, but she still knew a thing or two when it came to medicine in general. A few seconds later, she breathed a sigh of relief and turned back to the others. He's alright, just suffering from chakra exhaustion and physical exhaustion as well. All he needs is some rest and he'll be back on his feet in a few days. Okay, we'd better get Tazuna home, Sasuke reasoned as he stood. Naruto, can you and some of your clones help carry Kakashi while Sakura and I guard Tazuna? Heh, I can do you one better, team, replied Naruto, performing another Kagebushin no jutsu. Two clones appeared in a puff of smoke and propped the unconscious Jonin between them, supporting him with their shoulders. This way all three of us can protect Tazuna without having to worry about who's looking after Kakashi-sensei. Fair enough, agreed the Uchiha heir, turning his attention to their client. Alright Tazuna-san, lead the way. HMP, I guess these kids aren't half bad after all, especially the blonde and the moody one, Tazuna thought contently. Okay, let's go. We've only got 5 miles until we reach my daughter's house. With that, the group continued on their way, only this time more observant. A couple of hours later, Kakashi awoke to find himself underneath some blankets in someone's house. Ugh, he groaned. My head feels worse than it does after listening to Guy ramble about youth. That man needs so serious help. Are you alright? Kakashi looked up to see that the voice had come from a fairly attractive woman who seemed to be in her 20s, with dark hair kneeling beside him. I'm fine, he replied weakly. My name is Kakashi by the way. I am Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter. My father told me about all that happened and I cannot thank you and your students enough for keeping him safe. She bowed to him respectfully as she spoke. We are happy to help, Kakashi said humbly. Could you tell me where my students are now? Look no further Kakashi-sensei, said Naruto off to his left. Beside the young X-Man sat Sakura and Sasuke, both of whom were still in one piece, much to his relief. At the foot of the tatami mat he lay on was Tazuna, who was also in good health. It'll take more than some Hydra man wanted to take us down, continued the blonde, you can believe that. How are you feeling, Kakashi-sensei? Asked Sakura, her voice brimming with concern. As well as can be expected, the copy nin replied with a sigh. It'll probably take me a few days to recover, but when I'm a little stronger, I have a special training regimen that you three will need to practice. Until then, you should focus on getting to know the layout of the area, the town, and the bridge as well, just to be safe. Gotcha, nodded Sasuke. Naruto and Sakura agreed as well. Until Kakashi was better, familiarizing themselves with their surroundings would help them have more of an edge up on their opponents, if the time ever came. As he laid back down and mulled over their recent battle, Kakashi thought about the hunter nin that had seemingly appeared out of nowhere just as he was about to kill Zabuza. It was then that the truth of the matter became clear in his mind. Damn it. He swore mentally. How could I have missed that? Hey, Kakashi-sensei, what's up? Asked Naruto, having noticed the Jonin's expression. We had better begin your training as soon as we can, replied Kakashi grimly. Zabuza is still alive. What? Shrieked his students in disbelief. When a hunter nin takes a victim's corpse, they eliminate their remains on the spot, explained the copy nin. Yet, what did our masked friend do with Zabuza's body? He took it with him, answered Naruto, his teacher's reasoning starting to click in his mind. Usually, a hunter nin will dispose of a body on sight, destroying it so thoroughly that there wouldn't be even ashes remaining. Exactly, Kakashi continued. Also, if their commander required proof of their target's demise, they would take the head as it is easier to carry than the entire body. He noticed that his last statement had brought a queasy look to Sakura's face. Another reason that Zabuza is alive is because the boy used senbon needles to do him in. Normally, these needles aren't used in assassinations since they don't penetrate deeply. However, they are used in acupuncture and shiatsu techniques to relax the body. The spots in Zabuza's neck where he was hit would have put him in a death-like state, one that I couldn't see through, and that would render him bedridden for days. So that ninja was trying to save Zabuza, not kill him, Sasuke observed, rubbing at his eyes, which had started to itch again. He reached for his eye drops and swiftly applied a bit of solution to either eye, blinking a couple of times to get it working. I knew there was something funny about that guy. And that means that we'll get to have a rematch with him and Zabuza sometime soon, Sakura interjected. Excellent, grinned Naruto, cracking his knuckles in anticipation. I can't wait. Before Sakura or Kakashi could respond, a young boy entered the room. Upon seeing Tazuna, his face lit up and he ran over to tackle the old man in a loving hug. Grandpa. The child exclaimed happily. You're okay. I was afraid I was never gonna see you again. Tazuna smiled warmly and returned the boy's hug. I'm fine Inari, he reassured the boy, turning to face Team 7. Everyone, I'd like you to meet my grandson, Inari. Inari, the fellow lying on the mat over there is Kakashi, and those are his teammates, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke. They helped protect me, and they're going to stick around to help me finish the bridge and get rid of Gato once and for all. At hearing this, Inari looked Team 7 over with piqued interest. You're here to fight Gato? He asked in a confused manner. Yep, Naruto nodded proudly. All 4 of us have sworn to protect your grandfather with our lives and help you guys finish the bridge for your country. I guess you could say we're being kinda heroic. Something that Naruto had said caused the boy to send the group a hurt look, appearing to be on the verge of tears. "You're an idiot," he said coldly. "Heroes. There's no such thing. Gatu's thugs are gonna tear you guys apart." "What did you say?" Naruto growled, getting to his feet with the intent of clobbering Inari. Luckily for the boy's sake, Sakura quickly put Naruto in a headlock and held him back. "Naruto, calm down," she reasoned, but he still kept talking. "Listen," the blonde continued, "you're looking at someone who's just risked his neck to save your grandfather and the next Hokage of Konohagakure. This Gatu guy doesn't have a prayer, no matter how much muscle he's got to back him up." "I don't care who the heck you are," Inari shot back indignantly. "You're just gonna end up dead, just like everyone else who crosses Gatu." With that, Inari stormed out of the room, fists clenched in frustration at his sides. As he left, he slammed both the sliding doors shut with an impressive sounding thwack. "Inari." Tsunami called after her son, but her words fell on deaf ears. Izuna sighed audibly and shook his head sadly. "I am truly sorry. Please, forgive my grandson's rude behavior," he asked to the group. "There are reasons for his outburst though. I guess I should be used to crap like this by now," Naruto grumbled under his breath, shrugging off Sakura's hold. "Excuse me for a sec." He stood up and exited the room, hoping to catch up with Inari and tried to explain, calmly this time, that they hadn't come all that way just to die. Though the boy's attitude did press his annoyance vein a bit to the red, he knew that there had to be a reason for it. Naruto's acute sense of smell told him that Inari had run up to the second floor, most likely where his room was. Sure enough, as he reached the top of the stairs he saw a door near the end of the hallway with Inari carved onto it in small characters. As he neared the door, Naruto's ears picked up a faint sound coming from within the boy's room. Gently pressing his ear to the wood, he realized that it was sobbing. "Sniffle, Daddy," came Inari's heartbroken voice from behind the door. The poor kid was bawling his eyes out. Both saddened and embarrassed at once, Naruto backed away from the door and stood there for a moment. True, he'd never lost his adopted father, and he'd never known his biological father, yet, deep down, Naruto knew exactly how Inari felt. A long time ago, he'd lost someone that close to him too, someone he called family. Pushing those memories out of his head, he turned and headed back downstairs, deciding that it would be better to talk to Inari later on. He wasn't leaving anytime soon. I hope you guys liked the story. If you did, click on any of the videos which are popping on the screen right now. I promise you'll love them too. If you like my videos you can like and subscribe too. I'll see you on another amazing What If video guys. Love you all, peace.